The night we have all been waiting for is here, the 2024 NBA Draft. All the top prospects out there in Brooklyn waiting for their names to be called and dreams to be realized. We'll have wall-to-wall coverage here from you when we talk about this NBA Draft and all the stars that are out there and the prospects in Brooklyn tonight. Welcome into the Hoop Collective NBA Draft Show. It's presented by State Farm. We got Brian Windhorst, King McClure, Kevin Pelton, Amina Smith here with you. And so much to cover tonight in the first round. There's so many different names, so many different prospects. And a lot of people look at this draft and they say it's not a lot of star power, a lot of high-powered role players in this draft. However, guys, I mean, first thing that comes to mind, Wendy, when you think about this draft?
I think you've summed it up really good. There's not a lot of excitement about these guys franchise changing, but I promise you, several All-Stars are about to get drafted. That will happen tonight. We don't necessarily know who they're going to be. And we could see some action here. We've already seen a big day of NBA transactions. I believe we're going to see some more during the draft. A couple of picks have already moved around. We're going to see more. We're going to have some action tonight.
King, I know that you have been waiting also, not only just to see the prospects, but the outfits that
are
happening in Brooklyn right now. I'm not going to lie, the outfits that I've seen so far, they've been pretty good. Maybe the best I've seen in terms of just cleanliness. Like, it just looks like a clean look, nothing too crazy out there.
Yeah, I like the craziness.
Oh, you like the craziness.
You talk about the star power, but how about the star power with the fits, right? Yes. I'm not seeing it yet. The only one I've really seen so far is Jared McCain with the crop top suit jacket.
We knew he was going to
We knew he was going to come different, but I love the way Jared McCain came. But you're right. This is very clean, elegant looks. I love it. I'm excited to talk about these guys tonight.
Yeah. Kevin, what are you most excited about tonight?
I think Brian sort of touched on it, but the potential for chaos, because I think what makes this draft really interesting is it's an eye of the beholder draft. It's not only that there isn't consensus that there are any stars, it's that there isn't consensus about who the best players are. And I think that makes for the potential for a lot of trades and some picks coming kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, you see the draft order right here behind us. Let's take a look at the mock draft before we get into things. And everyone is looking at Zaccharie Risacher, the Frenchman, as the projected #1 overall pick. Kevin, what are your thoughts on Risacher?
Yeah, I think the thing that really stands out with him is the shooting at his size. Shot really terrifically in French League play this year. That actually kind of was out of line with his rest of his numbers, but I think when you watch him play, that sort of is matched by what you see with the eye test on him shooting the ball. It's a very clean stroke that I think translates pretty easily to the NBA.
Wendy, when you think about that #1 overall pick, we talked a lot about Zaccharie Risacher. How would he even fit in with the Atlanta Hawks?
Well, it's kind of hard to envision exactly where he's going to be with this team because we don't exactly know what this team's going to look like. But I will say, the scouts describe Risacher as a safe pick. He is a guy who is probably going to have a long NBA career. He is probably going to be able to guard multiple positions. He is 6'9". You are not worried about him being undersized. He can play multiple positions. He's probably not going to make you look really bad. There's not a huge risk there. And the Hawks have had a lot of time to figure out who they're going to go with. And the safe pick may be one of the reasons you sort of go into that harbor with Zaccharie Risacher.
Yeah, and I feel like back-to-back years now we're talking about Frenchman being the #1 overall pick. Victor Wembanyama last year, and now Zaccharie Risacher this year. King, what have you noticed or what have you seen from Risacher's game that would warrant him being that #1 overall pick?
Well, he has a lot of things that you just frankly can't teach. I mean, one thing I look at, we talk about his shooting numbers, Kevin. Well, one thing that I was really impressed with when watching him shoot was his ability to keep the ball in the same position and go straight to his set point, right? We call it a no-dip shooter. So for him to catch it, not dip the basketball, go straight into his shot, for me, that shows that he has proper mechanics and he's been taught that. And that right there is translatable. Then Wendy talked about how on the defensive side, his versatility. At 6'9", he can guard multiple positions. Different times when we saw him play, watched him play this year, his ability to switch onto smaller guards was elite. He moves his feet. He's not great at it yet, but he's really, really good. I think he can turn into great. But like you said, it's a safe pick. I think he will have a really good career. I don't think we'll see him be the #1 option on any team or #2 option even at that. But if you have a good playmaker around him, he can play a long time in the NBA.
And of course, we're about 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes into the show. We got to talk about Bronny James, right? Wendy, we got to talk about him because of the fact that we feel like we've been talking about him every day leading up to the NBA draft. How do you think things shake out for Bronny James tonight?
So there's 24 guys who got invited to the green room tonight. Bronny was not one of them. So we're not expecting to see him tonight. We see draft surprises every year on draft night. So I guess you could entirely rule it out. But Bronny did help himself during this draft process. He had a good showing at the draft combine. He interviewed very well, according to several teams that I talked to. He is a player who is a developmental player. At 6'1.5" in bare feet, he doesn't have an elite skill yet. He is not an elite shooter. He is not an elite defender. He is not an elite ball handler. He could be. And in a couple of years, he may be. And if he develops that skill, he very well could have a significant NBA career. But if you're drafting him, you're drafting him because you like his work ethic, you like his character, and you like his bloodline. And some team, I believe, will do that by the end of the draft tomorrow. And he will have a chance to hear his name, and he will have a chance to develop in the NBA.
I like how you put that. You love his bloodline.
Love his bloodline.
I like how you put that, Wendy. All right, we got some special guests with us as well. The Numbers on the Board podcast out in Chicago. Let's send it out to them for their insight.
Shout out to y'all for having us here, man.
Yeah, we appreciate y'all. Much love, much love, much love. Y'all up there looking good and stuff. We're going to grade y'all fits. All y'all got A pluses. Y'all out there to rookie class.
Oh, my God. I know you're full of it. You shouldn't start off by lying.
Oh, my God.
So earlier, Wendy talked about transactions and some moves. We did get one like an hour before the draft.
Yes,
we
yes,
saw
we
Denny
did.
Avdia getting traded to your Portland Trail Blazers.
Yes.
Are you reclaiming the Portland Trail Blazers?
I was always here. I never left.
Oh, okay.
We're not going to waste no time
Okay.
doing
But
that.
I am happy that Denny is in the Portland Trailblazer jersey. I think he's one of those guys that's progressively better than anyone you could have drafted at 14. So you might as well just take that chance, bring him in, and he fits well.
What do you think that means for Jeremy Grant? Because Denny has been playing a lot of 4 over the last 2 years of his career. Do you think they coexist, or do you think that's them saying that Jeremy might get traded tonight?
I would hope Jeremy is traded. I don't think he really fits the timeline of this team. But he is a cool vet to have around if you aren't able to get the good package for him. So I'm hoping Dallas makes this call, and they making that call to go get Jeremy Grant.
Okay.
I'm not mad at Dallas. I could see Sacramento.
No, yeah.
Sacramento being involved. Sacramento also has a 13th overall pick. So Portland could kind of get their pick essentially back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, the Denny one made me scratch my head. But what I will say is that kind of is what I'm looking for tonight's draft. A lot of conversation has been about what people's opinion is on the draft and the strength of the draft. Is it weak, whatever? But I think because of the lack of certainty with each pick and each prospect, that it opens up the floodgates for a lot of movement. We saw the Mikal Bridges trade last night. We got the Denny move, the Caruso and Josh Giddey before this. So a lot of the momentum is going into this being a very busy and active draft, which I am excited for because the last few years we've gone into the draft thinking we were going to get chaos and movement. And we haven't. I'm talking about way back when the Warriors had those two drafts.
Yeah, I was like, that pick is getting traded 100%.
And nothing was happening.
Yeah.
And then also some of the early access to free agency, it now puts pressure on teams. We just saw Claxton is reportedly going to go back to Brooklyn with $100 million. That's another player off the
Congratulations
market.
to him.
OG is re-signed with the Knicks, another player off the market.
Yep.
So all of this movement, I think, allows this draft to really open up the floodgates for us to have some excitement outside of just these young men getting drafted.
Yeah, with no true star and a lot of parity in this draft, I'm hoping that we do see a lot of teams either try to move up or they say, we don't really want these guys right here. We'll move down and try to get something to win now. But even for the Wizards, I know a lot of people were questioning what they did. They still looking to make moves. They might still move up with the 2 picks that they got in the draft.
Then they still might move Malcolm Brogdon. Brogdon probably will not play a minute in the Wizards jersey.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think that's really like the teams that I think could really walk out of here as big winners. I think the Wizards have moves that they can continue to make. I think the Blazers have a bunch of moves they can make. The Rockets can get extremely active. The Grizzlies, your Chicago Bulls potentially.
It's here.
You know.
If y'all throw back to us during pick number 11, I will have its own, and I'm hopefully going to be excited about what happens. I don't know yet.
Yeah, it's just so much potential for stuff to be active. And I think that's what you want as a draft. As an NBA fan, we get to the draft. This is a wonderful time for all of these 60 or 58 young men that will get drafted. And then also for us to be entertained to see movement. I just don't think you can get anything better.
Hey, we'll be here all night. We're going to go back to the team over at Bristol. Stay tuned, everybody on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
All right. Appreciate you guys. We'll be checking in with the Numbers on the Board podcast all throughout the night. A lot of great things said right there. But, a lot of things happening in the NBA leading up to the first round of the NBA draft. And Wendy, I want to start with you because I feel like you're really dialed into all this stuff. The Knicks, they picked up Mikal Bridges. And then there's a situation where they have the Nets, they get the picks, and then they're trying to do something with Houston and Kevin Durant. Isn't it? What is happening right now?
Yeah, so the Knicks have had a pretty spectacular 24 hours. They execute a trade for Mikal Bridges yesterday, getting one of the best two-way wings in the entire NBA. And then this afternoon, they lock up OG Anunoby, who they traded for last year, on a 5-year contract for about $212 million, according to Wojnarowski. That is less than the max. You know, they got him for less than the max salary by about $30 million over the 5 years. So he probably could have gotten the max if he had let himself go to free agency over this weekend. So the Knicks threw in some sweeteners. They gave him a player option at the last year of that deal. They threw him a trade kicker. But getting that deal done before this draft, before he hits free agency, huge. So the Knicks locked down two of the best big two-way wings in the league. That is going to be their, you know, basically their main strategy to go up against the Celtics next year. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they have guys for that. The trade that the Nets made, the double trade that they made, really the Nets weren't going to do both trades unless they had both trades. They wanted to make sure that if they were going to go into a full rebuild, which they will, and one of the things that we're going to potentially see tonight is the Nets make moves shedding more talent. Now, within the last hour, Nick Claxton, their free agent center, has agreed to a 4-year, $100 million deal. He will not hit free agency. So that is big for the Nets. And, you know, the Nets and the Rockets have a interesting trade that we could talk about as the night goes on.
Yeah, I know that it says the pick is in for Atlanta. The #1 overall projected pick is Zaccharie Risacher, and there you go. The pick is there. Risacher, #1 overall, going to the Atlanta Hawks. Instant reaction. Kevin, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I think the question is what's kind of the next shoe in the Atlanta team. We know the question with Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. The other element, moving up to the #1 pick, obviously exciting for Atlanta, but what it did is it pushed them into the luxury tax with this group. You're not going to pay the tax for a team that went 36 and 46 last year. So if it's not saving money in the Murray or Young trades, it's got to be somewhere else. Maybe DeAndre Hunter is kind of the odd man out now that they've drafted Risacher at that small forward spot.
King, how do you like this fit with Risacher in Atlanta?
I like him because the one thing that you have to have with him is a solid playmaker. We don't know who that playmaker will be moving forward, so that's the biggest question mark, kind of like Kevin just mentioned. But as long as he can have somebody there, one who can really facilitate, put him in his spots, I think that he will be fine. He's one of the guys in this first round. Because there's not too many guys that give star power, but he's one of those guys that can contribute immediately. He can step on the floor and make an impact. The one thing I want to see him get better at is playing off of the dribble. Can he make plays? Can he make others around him better? He was a negative assist to turnover ratio guy, and he's also very, very thin. Will the physicality of bigger, stronger wings get to him? Will he be able to get to his spots? Those are question marks that I have and those concerns that I have. But I think overall, I love the fit as long as there's a solid playmaker surrounded around him.
We're talking about the fit, Wendy, with Risacher in Atlanta. You know, what do you think he can do to contribute instantly to that team?
I don't know. I think he's probably a backup coming out of the gates. I think that, you know, we'll see what they do. They have some business they have to take care of this year. They have to sign Jalen Johnson, who's their really good young draft pick from a couple years ago, to a contract extension. They got to figure out their point guard position. We'll see. It's a young front office with a developing team. We'll see where they go. Pelton, you had him at 7th on your list. You wouldn't have taken him first overall.
I wouldn't have taken him first overall. I mean, he was 7th in my projections. When I went through and did kind of my subjective rankings, I think I had him 5th, so a little bit higher than that. And it's like I said earlier, this is very much an eye of the beholder draft. There's a lot of people that have Risacher #1. There's people that have Alex Sarr. I had Reed Sheppard at the top of my projections in my board. So there's a lot of different guys. Donovan Clingan, I think, was in consideration for this pick. There's a lot of different directions that you could have gone with this pick, but Risacher did seem to be kind of the consensus #1.
Why do you think, King, that it's so kind of all over the place? Because, I mean, that's kind of interesting. You say that you projected him to go at 7. He goes #1 overall. And then you have all these different projections and players going all over the place. I've been talking about Donovan Clingan for the last 2 weeks. And, you know, I mean, why do you think this draft is so all over the place?
Because nobody has separated themselves. We look at last year's draft. We look at a guy like Victor Wembanyama, almost. We call him a generational talent, a guy who is clearly better than everybody else in the draft. Nobody this year in this draft class has separated themselves. Like we said, we do not see that same level of star power, which doesn't mean that the draft is weak by any means. Let's not say that. I'm not going to say this draft class is weak. We just don't see the star power. But one thing we did see this year in the playoffs, in the finals specifically, Role players win you championships. Drew Holiday, Derek White, P.J. Washington, Derek Jones. We have a lot of those guys in this first round who can get plugged into those roles and contribute immediately. So just because there's not the star power, let's not get it twisted, people. The draft is
Don't
not
listen
quick.
to the internet,
Don't
basically
listen
what you're
to it.
saying.
Well, the last
Don't do
time
it.
everyone said this about a draft, it included Giannis Antetokounmpo and Rudy Gobert, right?
no.
That was the last time.
Yeah.
I don't think if we went out on the streets tomorrow that a lot of people would know who Zaccharie Risacher was.
Doubt it.
But
You're
it
right.
doesn't matter where you know him when he's drafted. It matters where he's at when he's a couple years in his career.
Yep.
Yeah.
5-6 years.
I want to go back to us talking about the things that have happened today, with the Knicks and the Nets. I know that you were kind of touching on it when you were getting to the Houston part of it. They have the number 3 overall pick. How could that affect what happens tonight?
Yeah, so a lot of people think that this draft really starts at the number 3 pick. Risacher going 1 is not a surprise. A lot of people believe Alex Sarr, the other French standout, will go here to the Washington Wizards. The Washington Wizards have already made one trade tonight with sending Denny Advia to Portland as the numbers on the board dudes we're talking about. So Houston has a decision to make. If they take Donovan Clingan at number 3, it is an indication that they may be willing to trade one of the centers on their roster, specifically Alperen Şengün. Alperen Şengün, they drafted 3 years ago out of Turkey, had a great year last year, but I'm not sure they see him as their long-term fit at center. I'm not sure they're ready to sign him to a contract extension. And so if they take Clingan, it indicates that they may be willing to do something with the draft capital that they acquired from Brooklyn yesterday. If they stick with what Jonathan Givony and Jeremy Wu think, from our draft experts who think that they're going to go with Reed Sheppard in that spot, I think it's less likely that they're as interested in moving Şengün. They also could trade the pick because there's been a lot of interest and they've had it out there dangling. This is one of those picks that wouldn't necessarily get traded until you were on the clock because you wanted to make sure 100% that your player that you want with the potential number 3 pick would go. So this number 3 pick, which isn't even on the clock just yet. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because I do think we're going to hear Alex Sarr called here. This will be the first series of action where we will see things start to spin in this draft. And the Houston Rockets will give us an indication of what they're thinking, and the rest of the league will give us an indication of what they're thinking too.
Yeah, Wendy talked about Alex Sarr potentially going at number 2 overall. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that'd be a good fit? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it seems like that's been kind of the clearest. It's interesting because Sarr did not work out for the Hawks. He had a workout scheduled and then canceled it. Seems like he wants to go to Washington, and they've kind of locked in on him. And he's in many ways, I think, the safest player in this year's draft. Risacher, similar, but just the skill level that he showed being productive in the Australian NBL as a teenager. I think that and kind of his skill set at the center position, it's going to be hard for him not to be a solid player.
Yeah, that pick is in right now, just seconds away from seeing what that pick is, and it looks like it is Alex Sarr, just as we predicted, knowing that he would go 2nd overall. King, what do you like about this pick and him going to the Washington Wizards?
Well, there's a lot to like about Sarr. He's a mobile big with a lot of two-way upside, and I think he is more skilled than a lot of people give him credit for, and we saw that in flashes this year. I mean, his transition play, getting the board, pushing it, being able to, slice and dice through traffic a little bit, one-on-one down low, being able to find the open man, make those passes. He wasn't a great passer, but he could get it there. He could get the job done, and defensively, he can switch onto guards. That's probably his best defensive trait, switching in the pick and roll. He struggled in the drop coverage. A little concerned about that, but when he comes to the switch, his feet are great enough, his lateral quickness is good. He's mobile enough, athletic enough to make it tough for guards and to really give them a little trouble, and his recovery speed is great too. He'll meet you at the rim, be able to contest, alter shots. I like his two-way upside.
It seems like defense is a big thing in this draft. Look, I'm just saying, because we talked about it before just moments ago. People are saying that there's not a lot of star power in this draft. However, I do still believe that defense wins championships. You can't just score all the time, although scoring
You're old
is
school.
important.
I like it. I like how old
yeah,
school
I
you
mean,
are.
scoring is important, but you got to play some defense. King, why do you think defense is just such a big thing with this draft class?
Because I think that when you talk about guys who can contribute immediately, that's the one area in which you can go help a team.
Right.
Everybody wants a guy who can defend. They want a guy that can help you on that side of the floor because, yes, you have to be able to make shots. Yes, we know you have to be able to put the ball in the hole. But if you can stay in front of your man and not rely on your help side defense, one-on-one, you can chest up, that is an impressive skill that a lot of guys forget about in today's draft class. And honestly, there's a few guards that we will talk about in probably a few picks down the line who are physically gifted, physically ready to guard number 1, number 2 options on an NBA level court. And I think that defense will always translate.
Yeah, and Wendy, I feel like when you do play defense, especially for these prospects, wouldn't that get you on the court a little bit quicker than the scoring or anything like that?
Yeah, especially for a team like Washington,
Yeah.
which is going to be needing any kind of talent they can get.
Everything.
So Washington, they traded Daniel Gafford at the trade deadline, obviously. So they had a hole at center. Bilal Coulibaly was their top lottery pick last year, so there's another French player already on the team. They pick up 2 first-round picks for Denny Avdia. They picked up a first-round pick for Daniel Gafford. They're adding first-round picks. They're going under a long rebuild here. There's going to be low pressure for Alex Sarr coming in. They're almost certainly going to be in a tank mode for next year and be right back here drafting at the top of the draft next year. It's a comfortable position to go in for a rookie. Low stress. And there's some things that they're going to work around him. So I get why he was trying to get himself to Washington, which is what he tried to do because he didn't want to work out in Atlanta. He rejected that, and he got what he wanted. His agents got him where he wanted to go. And now we really have the first big moment of the draft with the Rockets on the clock.
Yeah. How do you like this fit in Washington?
I think it makes a lot of sense for the reasons that King outlined. I think one other kind of fit here that is part of why Sarr maybe wanted to end up there, a lot of this Wizards front office has connections to Oklahoma City, and Alex's older brother, Olivier, played for Oklahoma City a couple of years on 2-way contracts.
All right. I know we didn't want to get a little bit too ahead of ourselves with that number 3 pick, but, they're on the clock right now, the Houston Rockets. They've got about 2.5 minutes until they make that pick. Kevin, why does the draft start at this point? Because I feel like now is when it starts to get a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I think people had locked into Sarr at number 2, and there was a pretty good idea that Reed Sheppard was the most likely to go at number 1, and Houston's a bit more of a wild card, especially because of the trade potential that Wendy mentioned. But if they stay here, I know you talked about Donovan Clingan. Reed Sheppard's the guy who's been mocked here most of the time, and
he's number 1 on your list.
He is, and Houston has drafted more similarly to my projections than any other team in the league over the last.
Are you bragging about that?
I know that was kind of like a humble brag, a little bit. I wasn't going to say it, but when you called you out,
mostly worked out because Şengün was one of those guys, number 16. He was number 1 in my rankings that year. Last year, we were sitting here in amazement that Cam Whitmore kept sliding. They stopped that at pick 20, I think it was, and it's too early to render a decision on that one, but he looks quite good. And Tari Eason's another one who I think has outperformed where he was taken and came out well in the projections.
So I got to ask, why Reed Sheppard? Why is he number 1 on your list?
Yeah, I think number 1, the shooting. You start with that. Over 50% from 3 as a freshman. We've not seen anything like this on the kind of volume that he did. And then the other element of it is his playmaking defensively. Really high steal rate and also an incredible block rate for a guard. I mean, a lot of those are kind of those plays, I think, where...
Yeah, you look at him, he's 6'2", 6'1", 6'2", but he gets a lot of blocks and steals.
By the way, you mentioned people not knowing Risacher. Did Tim tell this story that he was in the elevator with media members and Tim Bontemps was with Reed Sheppard and media members yesterday at the draft? He was the only person in the elevator who recognized Reed Sheppard.
And his suit tonight wasn't making him. He looked like a media member of the suit he was wearing tonight.
No, that suit is clean.
Hold on.
Not too much, Wendy.
Wait.
That is a clean suit.
We're only into pick number 3, and we're already taking shots all over.
I am not taking shots. I'm saying it was a very... Nothing's wrong with it. It just looks like something that somebody in the media would wear.
So just very business-like, very down the middle. Right. I don't know. I don't know if I like that. If that's...
I like the color.
I feel insulted too as a member of the media.
Well, not me, but
take it however you want.
There it goes. The pick is in for the Houston Rockets. Reed Sheppard going number 3 overall from Kentucky, the guard. King, what do you think about this pick here going to Houston?
Kind of like Kevin said, I'm a huge fan of Reed Sheppard, and his shooting was crazy, but not just the numbers, right? You can shoot 50% and you'd be like, oh my goodness. But the way he was getting his shots off the dribble, off one tuck-in 3, catch and shoot. The way he was getting his threes off, that's what really impressed me the most. But not just that, his playmaking. I mean, at his size, 6'2", his ability to be able to read the pick and roll, always make the right decision, never get sped up, play at his own pace, and defensively. I mean, my man is a slept-on athlete. He has a 42-inch vertical. Let's not get it twisted, people. This guy right here can jump with the best of them. But I think a lot of his steal rate, a lot of his block rate is attributed to his high IQ. He is such a high IQ basketball player that is what allows him to be able to get those steals, read the defense, and get those blocks. That is what you're getting out of this guy, a high IQ point guard that can shoot the mess out the basketball.
And I will say, with Ime Udoka being the head coach of the Houston Rockets, he loves players like that have really high IQ. So I think that is a good fit when you talk about the coaching that's there. But 52% from beyond the arc last season, that's insane. I had to go back and look at it again. I'm just like, this is crazy. But Wendy, what do you like about this pick and the fit in Houston?
Well, one of the things that the scouts say about him is that he's got tremendous hands, and that helps him in so many different ways. Obviously, he's got a great steal, obviously great catch and shoot, and his high IQ, good hands, better athlete than maybe you take for a guy who's 6'1" like this. There's a lot of things on this board that help him elevate in a class that doesn't have standout stars. I'm not sure that in other drafts he would have gone in the top 3 here, but I think there's a lot of things about him that check the boxes. And so this is a guy who didn't start at Kentucky, right?
Well, there might be 2 guys in the lottery who didn't start at Kentucky.
What's crazy, he wouldn't even expect it to be good. He wouldn't expect to get significant minutes this year at Kentucky. Right,
so that's a remarkable rise, and I think it does speak to this class, and it also speaks to the fact that he's been overrated, and you can never or underrated, and you can never call him underrated ever again. When you're the number 3 pick in the draft, you are no longer underrated.
Well, unless he becomes the best player in this draft class.
Oh, you never know. I mean it's a shooting league now at this point. You shooting threes like that now. I don't know if that'll translate exactly into the NBA when he starts playing games, but, having a shot like that,
yeah, but that's also my biggest concern.
That's not bad.
That's my biggest concern, though, is how high is his ceiling? I mean, we know that he is good. We know that his numbers do not lie. He can back it up. He can do all these great things. But what is his ceiling in the NBA? I don't know that, and that's my biggest question mark for this guy.
I think that's fair, but that's one of the things I like about him going to Houston is this is a team that already has a lot of young shot creators. Jalen Green, I think Jabari Smith Jr. is going to be that kind of guy. And then I love his fit with Amen Thompson because my biggest question I'd say about Reed is he going to be that traditional pick-and-roll playmaker at point guard? Well, they've got Amen Thompson has the potential to be that kind of guy. And what do you need to put around a non-shooter like Amen? Shooters.
And this is also a Houston Rockets team that it seemed like towards the end of last season they were trying to put something together. Obviously, this is a team that still has some work to do. Wendy, how do you think a player like Reed Sheppard can help the Rockets at least get closer to their goal of being a playoff contending team?
Well, the Rockets are far from done with this roster. They are looking to upgrade. That's why they acquired these extra Phoenix picks. If it's not a deal with Phoenix, because the owner of the Suns, Matt Ishbia, has come out tonight on X and said, I'm not trading Kevin Durant, they will look for other ways to improve this roster. But I think them not taking Donovan Clingan here is an indication that they're maybe not as aggressively looking to move Şengün. If they thought there was a fire crackling with Phoenix, they might have drafted differently here. And now I want to say, this pick that's on the clock now, the Spurs at 4. This pick has been offered around a little bit. The Spurs have the 4th and 8th picks in this draft. They have sniffed around trading for established players, moving up in this draft. They kicked that around. They also have offered these 2 picks for established players in the league. The Spurs, we talk about the Rockets wanting to upgrade and get better really fast. The Spurs are in that boat too. They haven't been as public about it, but the way that they played down the stretch of the season, the way Wembanyama played, some of the things that Wembanyama said about what he wants from this organization, they're looking to upgrade too. So I expect the Spurs to draft here, and I expect them to look at a guard. Don't you, Pelton, a guard here?
I think so, although there's been a lot of Donovan Clingan buzz.
I heard a lot of Donovan Clingan buzz.
Yeah, so we'll see what they do here, but it wouldn't stun me if this pick gets traded, although I think it would have been traded by now. But there was some, because people weren't sure what Houston was going to do at 3, it wouldn't surprise me if the Spurs phones were alive right now discussing this pick. And if there's because Clingan is a guy that some teams want to compete for. So let's just see what happens here. Jonathan Gavoni thinks that Stephon Castle from UConn is going here. We'll see if that's what happens. You like who here, Pelton?
I think Castle makes some sense. I think he's someone who, King talked about these guys who can come in defensively and guard multiple.
That's what I was referring to.
Stephon Castle for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? Also, just thinking about the Spurs team, they want to build around Victor Wembanyama. So that's another question that I have, King. Do they go with a draft pick here, or do they look for a trade for more established players in order to build around him so that they could be a contending team, whether it's not this upcoming season, but maybe even the season after that?
Yeah, well, that's the one thing that we love about Wemby is we talk about a generational talent, but he cares so much. He's a team player, and he wants to win, and that is his main focus. So for me personally, if you're not going to be able to get somebody immediately that can help you impact as far as an established player, you got to get somebody that can make sense. And the pick is in.
The pick is in for the San Antonio Spurs, and there it is right there, Stephon Castle. You guys got it. I'm here looking at this tweet of his necklace when he was coming in. I'm like trying to duel on the screen. I'm looking at the pick coming in, but then also, I mean, this necklace is
It's a castle.
I mean, I'm telling you.
Oh, the creativity.
It hasn't been like crazy outfits, but the accessories are always, you know, they got to be.
See, a media member's not wearing that.
No, if a media member is wearing that, I want to know what job they got, okay?
Right,
I want to know where they working.
This is more what I'm expecting from the high lottery picks.
Maybe if Eddie House, now that he's in media.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, Eddie loves his Terror Squad chain. He loves it.
I
don't think I could pull it off.
We got to get you one.
I think you could 100% pull it off.
Oh, you did?
And nobody would expect you to, but this is why I think you can do it.
Did you know that, like, you know, when I was wearing that Drake OVO stuff, that, you know, that was my attempt, and it didn't go well. It didn't go well. I guess the Drake is not popular right now.
No. Team Drake is not popular right now.
Drake is not popular.
Oh, my gosh. All right, let's talk about fit. Stephon Castle going to the San Antonio Spurs. Kevin, what do you like about this one?
I assume now we're talking fit on the court?
Yes. Not his actual fit.
Stephon Castle is a winner, and I think that's why he ended up going this high. It's interesting because I saw UConn in December. They played in Seattle against Gonzaga, and Castle was kind of a bit player at that point. He was still coming off the bench. Donovan Clingan got injured a little after that. That opened the opportunity for Castle to play more minutes, and he grabbed that opportunity with both hands and was a key factor in them winning the title.
And you know, when you talk about this pick, we always talk about his defense. But the one thing that I actually think that he is, I think he can be a reliable playmaker. And we saw it in high school, which, I mean, yeah, it's high school, whatever, right? But you saw the vision. You saw the playmaking ability to get downhill. He's an elite level finisher out of the pick and roll. I think that, like you said, he's such a winner that all he cared about was winning this year, and he sacrificed the role and allowed Tristan Newton to play on the ball and to be that primary playmaker and took a back seat to a lot of those guys because all he wanted to do was win a national championship. So I think that we haven't even really scratched the surface with how good Stephon Castle can be.
He did surprise some scouts when he started the draft process and started declaring himself a point guard.
Yeah, and I like it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. He can't shoot. That's my only concern.
Well, that is a concern in the modern NBA. That's my only concern.
He cannot shoot. So when you're coming off the pick and roll and teams are sagging off of you, going underneath, that can kind of limit your playmaking a little bit.
Pelton, you had him 10th on your projection.
But I had him higher subjectively because of all those reasons. I think I was underrating his defense a little bit. Didn't necessarily rack up a ton of steals and blocks, which you would have preferred from that archetype, but one-on-one and ability to defend multiple positions stands out. And I think what I'm intrigued by is if he doesn't become that kind of playmaker that King thinks he can be, then I think he ends up morphing into something like what we saw Bruce Brown Jr. be in Brooklyn, where he can almost play as like an undersized big man and set screens for Wemby.
Well, Bruce Brown would be an interesting comparison I hadn't heard before. I would just say that
he's bigger.
Last year, the Spurs started the season with really sort of a experiment at point guard.
I know, we're looking at Wendy in the OVO jacket. I was trying to concentrate, and then King looked over, and I'm looking at the screen, and I'm just like, oh, there goes Wendy in the OVO jacket.
Somebody had to explain what OVO meant to me.
I would love to hear your guess.
The Spurs started last year with Jeremy Sohan playing point guard, which was very bizarre and was very much of a failure. I don't know if they can start next season with Stephon Castle as their starting point guard. I think he's got to be coming off the bench. But I will say this, if he can actually defend multiple positions at the NBA level, which is what he's projected to at the 4th pick, he'll get minutes for Greg Popovich. He'll work his way on the court.
And I think something that's important, too, is something that King brought up, is that he's a winner, right? Yeah. You win a national championship. I think that Wendy, you know, knowing Greg Popovich, knowing how he coaches, knowing the culture that he's built down there in San Antonio, how do you think that will be a factor with him joining that team. Just the fact that he has that winning in his DNA. And when you're a winner, you understand it's not about you, it's about the rest of the team.
Yeah, so a big thing will be, do the Spurs want to go all in still playing young players? Or will they make moves this offseason to bring in veterans? Like some people have speculated that that could be a Chris Paul team if Chris Paul ends up getting cut loose. And so that would actually probably be great for him, but his role may depend on what the Spurs actually look like when they get done with their offseason.
All right, well, the Detroit Pistons, they're on the clock right now, just under 2 minutes until they make their pick. Let's send it back out to Chicago, to the Numbers on the Board podcast. Guys, you go ahead and take it over.
Yeah, we're waiting for number 5. And while we do that, let's talk about 3 and 4. We saw Reed Sheppard go to the Houston Rockets. I think we all agree that that was probably the pick that we expected if they were going to keep it, which it seems like they did. How do we feel about it?
No, we talking about Stephon Castle.
No, we're going 3 and 4.
Exactly, we're going in order. But I think he was the perfect pick when you're talking about a good guy who can come in and just be an automatic sniper and play off the ball very well. I think that's one of the things that you got to bring in when you're the Houston Rockets.
Mm-hmm. And the Houston, they're still trying to get to a play-in or maybe even a playoff spot. So finding a guy that can come in and contribute right now alongside of Sengun and a lot of wings that like to play inside, give him some space and he can learn behind Fred.
They're building their team like a baseball franchise because it feels like right now they have a farm system that's getting ready and brewing as they're trying to put these other NBA-ready guys. And I love what they're doing. You got Fred, you got Sengun, Dylan Brooks you brought in, and now and behind those guys you have Reed Sheppard, Amin Thompson, Cam Whitmore. We still got to see our boy Tari Eason because he was hurt last year. They have a lot going on, and they are continuing to stockpile talent, and they have those picks. They are going to open up at some point to make a big splash, whether it's now or next year, to trade deadline, whatever. But the Rockets have one of the brightest futures in the NBA.
Now let's get to the Spurs, get in Stephon Castle.
They was wondering why I was wearing a Spurs jersey. Obviously, I'm not a Spurs fan, but I did my mock draft, my final mock draft earlier today, and I had Stephon Castle going 4. So I had already knew that my guy was going 4. My favorite prospect in the draft by far. Super excited for him. We saw what everybody was talking about with all of the fits and the strengths and weaknesses. What I love about Stephon Castle is we don't really have to sit up here and dwell too much about what the Spurs are going to do because he's that type of player. That's why he was the perfect pick for them at 4. He's got upside to be a starting point guard. He can defend. He can play without the basketball. He can sacrifice. I think when you think about the Spurs and why they've always had success is they look for defense and they look for players who can adapt. And if it's one thing he showed us in his freshman year is that he can adapt. And like was mentioned before, we haven't really seen a full Stephon Castle because he went to a team that was competing for a championship with older.
Right. Even if he's not on playing the one spot with the Spurs, just the ability to make plays and make passes. I mean, all last year people were complaining about people not getting Vic the ball. Just keep adding to that people. Just keep adding to that roster of people that can find him and make it easier for him and just have his team looking good.
Yeah, when we talked to him, he said the only thing he wanted to do at UConn was win. No matter the circumstances. It didn't matter if he was a point guard or off guard. He wanted to help contribute to a championship, and he did that. And now he's playing with an alien, and Victor Wembanyama. It feels like a perfect transition. I'm so excited for him.
I mean, yeah, when you're talking about a dude that's
wait. The pick is in?
Oh, the pick is
Is
in?
this how, I ain't checked my phone. Is this the little homie from Chicago?
Let's see. Detroit.
I'm hoping
They're going to take
Now, you know it takes 5 minutes for it to load up.
Ron Holland. At 5. The
let's
mock
go.
draft's
Wow.
over.
Yeah, my mock draft.
It's over.
My mock
It's
draft
busted.
is
Wow.
My mock draft is shot.
Wow.
Shout out to Ron Holland, man.
That is big time. Hey, this one of the things I loved about this draft is that you can have all of these mock drafts and it can feel like things are going in the right direction. And then, boom, the Detroit Pistons say, no, we really like this guy. We don't care what any of the experts have said. We don't care about what y'all mock drafts haven't fallen. We like him, and we're taking him at 5. This is good. They get even more athletic.
so much upside with
yes.
Ron Holland.
Another upside pick for them.
Yep, another good defensive guy. Like we was talking about Stephon Castle. This is another guy that was sitting at you and guard 1 through 4 comfortably.
The Eastern Conference is trying to get wings that can guard because they got a Sarr already. Now they're adding Ron Holland. The only question and thing that I am considering when I look at this pick from the Detroit Pistons standpoint is at some point, Cade Cunningham needs somebody reliable around him that can make some outside jump shots. And back-to-back years, you've now used a top 5 pick on somebody whose biggest weakness is the outside shot.
Yeah.
So I still love the pick because it's obviously who they love, and it is upside at the end of the day. But I do think that the Detroit Pistons have to turn a corner where upside isn't the priority.
Well, I will say this: they do have a bunch of money in cap space. Maybe they can go out here in free agency.
They can.
And probably get them a shooter, a 2 to put next to Cage, where it just makes it easier for them.
Or trade for a guy.
Who's that guy?
A 40% shooter for the last 5 seasons and sitting in Chicago waiting for a new team.
Oh yeah, Zach LaVine is definitely right there.
He's right there.
So
And he won't cost nothing.
Everything that I've been seeing says that the Bulls
No,
got Giddy and he fits with Zach LaVine, so they're gonna rekindle the
They
relationship.
building a
with
team around
everything.
Giddy now.
This is nice. So I thought this was gonna be the young homie, Modest Buzelis. You know what I mean? I wanted him to stay close to home so we
We
can
did
go
just see
golfing.
them have a moment together where they
Yeah,
hugged
G
up.
League Ignite guys.
So
you know what I'm saying?
that was pretty dope. But it's a very interesting pick, man. I love that they're going out to get their guy. New front office, new everything. So I know we talked about the Thompson pick from last year. It's a different regime.
Yep.
They think that they can come in and help develop some jump shooting. They did hire one of the better jump shooting coaches
Absolutely.
that was available. So maybe he turns into what this is me really projecting and hoping the best for him. What Jaylen Brown did.
I'm gonna relax on that. I'm really gonna relax on that. I don't want to compare anybody to a Finals MVP. But yeah, I mean whenever you hire a guy who could take Lonzo Ball and turn him into a 40% shooter based off what he came into the league, his jump shot percentages were so bad, y'all thought he should have went to the G League.
He was shooting from inside.
He was shooting from the side of his head.
These 2 dudes on our early
Don't
podcast
do that.
days.
This is not the place to be trolling.
I'm not trolling.
make sure you ain't
I'm not
putting that
trolling. Derek was
way.
saying Lonzo Ball should
Dang.
be in the G League as a 2nd overall pick 3 games into his career, and now he's a 40% three-point shooter. So they got the right people in place to potentially get these guys together. And I do love teams that have an identity of like athleticism and speed. It's just that in a half-court basketball setting, you're going to have, to need some shooting. So
It's 2024. You need that jump shot. The
Yeah, I
teams
mean-
that we saw going against each other in the championship were 2 of the high-volume three-point shooting teams in basketball. You just can't.
Ron Holland, I don't want to steal your moment, but hey, NBA, can we get some moves? Don't do this to us again. We came in here excited thinking we was going to get some trades going. We 5 picks in and ain't nothing happened. Houston Rockets, y'all messed my mock up because I thought y'all was going to flip with the Grizzlies and they was going to take Clingan. They have.
Well, I think this is the place right here where Clingan could get traded, or the pick could get traded for Clingan.
I hope Grizzlies come in and swoop it.
They're so close. They're
Oh, man, I
sitting
just
at pick
called.
number 9.
The Grizzlies have traded up from 9 to 6.
Is that
with the-
official or
with
you
the
just
Hornets.
talking?
Let's wait and see.
Oh man. Oh man.
So he's gonna go
What Jalen Ramsey say? You tell me.
Did we predict it and it happened? Is that another team?
Go ahead, KB.
I ain't reading what you reading.
What
you reading?
What you read?
You thought Memphis. It ain't Memphis. But I don't want to spoil it for the people at the crib. But it seemed like this pick might be on the move. It seemed like this pick might be on the move, man.
Hey.
Wow.
Let's do it. We got a trade going on.
Now we got a trade. All right.
You ask and you shall receive.
Well, we gonna throw it back to the team over in Bristol.
Wendy gonna let us know.
Y'all fill us in exactly what's going on with this 6th overall pick.
You're right, guys. Ask and you shall receive. It sounds like the Memphis Grizzlies are moving up from 9 to 6. So what do you think is happening here, Wendy?
Yeah, so first off, Trajan Langdon with his first move as the president of the Pistons with a major curveball, going with Ron Holland, who Jonathan Givony had at number 13. Where did you have him, Pelton?
I think he was 20 in the projection.
Yeah, so that's a big move for Ron Holland. This now gets us to the first really interesting part of the draft. Portland at number 7, despite having DeAndre Ayton, was a team that was seen as Donovan Clingan's floor. He was not going to get past Portland at 7. That is well known in the league. Memphis has very badly wanted to draft to move up to get Donovan Clingan. They probably talked to everybody from at 3, 4, 5, and finally at 6, Charlotte, who has really had discussions throughout the day to move out of 6. It looks like they have struck a deal with Memphis. We'll see what the price is. I'm sure that Charlotte is just going to move back to the 3 spots to the number 9 pick. But what we're potentially seeing here is Memphis swooping in front of Portland to get Donovan Clingan. And so the first significant trade of the night of the draft, moving into the top 10 here. And this is something, Memphis was going to come out of tonight with a center. They were either going to draft one with their own pick at number 9, they were going to trade up to get Donovan Clingan, or I think they had some conversations with some other teams around the league, with some other centers who are potentially available. And now they have their center, sort of the guy that they want to build and put next to Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson has had to play a lot at center the last couple of years because of Steven Adams injuries. They want Jaren Jackson to be a 4. And so Donovan Clingan, they believe, can be a defensive force at center. I would say he's probably going to be a good chance to be a starter on night 1, and that's why it was worth them to try to move up here.
I want to go back to Ron Holland II, drafted 5th overall, but you had him 20th. 20th on your mock draft.
But
I mean, not
by the way,
to say about
Woj
your
is
mock
now
draft,
saying
I'm just saying it's just crazy about what happened.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Woj is now saying the trade's not going to happen.
Oh.
And Charlotte's going to keep the pick. And
Okay.
I would say that Clingan maybe should book a ticket to Portland.
Oh. See, we asked for a little bit of drama.
And we get it.
And we get a little bit of drama. We get a little bit
it.
of drama here. But just really quickly, talk about just the gap between, with Ron Holland II going 5th overall. Is that just because of the talent in this draft? Like, what's happening here?
It's interesting because this is a situation where I didn't believe my own projections. When I put together my subjective board, I had him 4th because I do think there's a lot of upside with Holland if he hits. He was, maybe as impressive as anyone last year in the Nike Hoop Summit, which I watched down in Portland. And then this G League Ignite season was a mess. They went 2-32 in regular season play in the G League. And I think that maybe he took a little bit too much of the blame relative to some of the other guys and just kind of the roster construction on this team. So I think there is a lot of upside, but they mentioned the issues are Detroit. Last year they drafted a non-shooter in a Sarr Thompson, very similar type of player. They're going to need Fred Vincent to work some of those same kind of miracles. Herb Jones is another example of a guy we thought was a non-shooter coming to the draft. Under Fred Vincent in New Orleans, has become a 40% three-point shooter.
He has to improve his jumper because everything else is there for this young man. The motor that he plays with, which is actually crazy that I'm about to say this, but I think playing with the motor is a skill in today's game because too many people just
Angel
don't
Reese said
do
it the other way.
Playing with the motor is a skill, and Ron Holland plays with the motor every single time he steps onto the floor. Getting downhill, driving is his specialty, but you're right, Kevin. He has to learn how to shoot the basketball.
All right, well, it looks like Charlotte's pick is in, and it's coming in right now. Charlotte decided not to trade with Memphis. T-John Salon is going to Charlotte, so I guess Wendy going to Charlotte for now, and maybe to Portland later. What's the situation here? What do you think about this?
No, I don't. I know. We'll see. T-John Salon is another Frenchman, the 3rd Frenchman taken in this draft already with just the first 6 picks. That's a statement right there.
Significant.
A scout referred to this guy. I'll see what you think about this. A scout said this guy is all gas, no brakes. Is how a scout, plays with a very high motor, very high energy. He played at Cholet, which has produced NBA players in the past in France. His skills need a little bit of work. This is definitely a project pick. He's not going to come in, I think, and get major minutes right away. You think he will, Pelton?
I don't think first off, it's Charlotte, so I think he probably will because I think their primary goal is being in position to draft high in 2025. He did play for a pretty good playoff team in France and played a lot of minutes for them. It was interesting, though, because his role was he was playing the same role that Bilal Coulibaly played on Wemby's team 2 years ago, where they were just primarily having him spot up on the perimeter. And he's not that good of a three-point shooter yet, although he's pretty
not that much
confident.
good of a dribbler, according to my scout.
I have a lot of concerns. This is about as raw of a prospect as we're going to see in the first half.
That's what I think.
He to me, he's a project. I don't like his mechanics, particularly follow-through footwork. On his jump shot, I think that he's very limited when it comes to putting the ball on the floor. I think the one thing that he can contribute is his length and mobility, like you just said, just being versatile on the defensive side. He's not a great athlete. He's a solid athlete. I mean, I think that this guy right here is going to be a long-term project. I don't think immediately he is ready. I'm kind of surprised that somebody would buy in at number 6. But, I mean, there's a lot of upside. Raw prospect with a lot of upside, and the upside might come in a few years.
It sounds like a lot of upside, but also a lot of questions, but we also know that Charlotte needs a lot of help.
What will be interesting is if it comes out what the talks between Charlotte and Memphis actually were and how close this was to being swapped. And we'll see because, it's an interesting pick to It's not a player, you could have gotten this guy at 9 probably if you moved back. So that maybe was for a later day. We'll see if those things leak out or how close it ever was. But we might have just had an interesting moment in this draft that we could be discussed for a while to come. But I think Portland's got to be doing backflips now because this is as low as Clingan, I think, was going to go, and he is there for them. Portland was also another team that had some discussions about needing to move up. They don't have to. And I would keep an eye out for DeAndre Ayton potentially being on the trade block. Maybe not tonight, maybe not even before the season, but this is obviously a move to hit a new franchise center. And if I was DeAndre Ayton, I would be interested in if Clingan is indeed the pick here for Portland.
We talk about Tijon Salon being sort of a project for the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, Kevin, can the Charlotte Hornets even, I guess, maybe afford to have a project? I'm trying to figure out a way to put it. Like, can they afford to have a project? Because, I mean, obviously they're not one season away, maybe 2 or 3. I mean, depending on how they build their team and things like that. But can they afford to have a project-type player right now where you have a talent that's so raw like Tijon, and you have to mold them really into an NBA player?
So I think there are a lot of similarities to Bilal Coulibaly getting drafted in just about this same spot last year by Washington. And same thing where a new front office came in, and now you've got a lot of runway to work with here. We're able to worry about 4 or 5 years down the road, not maybe, Dalton Connect could have helped us a lot more next season. So I think it makes sense from that standpoint. And I think, like Coulibaly, he's got a chance to probably play a lot and maybe even be a little bit more ready than people expect, I would say, than you guys expect. And I'd say long-term, the guy that he kind of reminded me, if everything hit, like the very best case scenario, was Lauri Markkanen. I'm curious what you think of that.
Wow.
Oh.
I mean,
Oh, man.
these two dudes could not disagree more on this pick. I mean, they're being cordial.
I love it. I love
Amina,
the friction. I love it.
They are
I love
talking
it.
trash to each other
I love it.
with their
I love
eyes.
it. I love it.
With
I'm
their
here
eyes.
to facilitate. I like it.
No, I don't disagree.
Man, Kevin.
He's like, I
Lauri
don't
Markkanen is
disagree,
an all-star.
Oh, my God.
Listen, in 5 years, we could run this back and he could be dunking on us.
And I could be completely wrong.
I mean, I had him lower than 6 on my board, so I'm not saying I think that's going to
Portland
happen.
has the pick in right now. Donovan Clingan going out to Portland, just like you mentioned, Wendy. Portland probably doing backflips right now that they were able to get him at this number 7 spot. But, King, what do you like about Donovan Clingan going to Portland and what he can bring to that team?
Same thing that we talked about Stephon Castle. This young man is a winner. I mean, you talk about back-to-back national championships. He understands how to win. He played for Hurley, who has instilled certain things in him that a lot of people just don't have, right? That UConn system. So you automatically bring a winner into Portland. Now, when you talk about on the court, he's an interior force. He's big, not a great finisher. He's 7'2", so his athleticism, I mean, he can dunk the ball, but he's not really a guy who we're going to call an exceptional athlete or even a good athlete. I mean, he averaged almost 3 blocks per game last year. But my biggest concern is on the defensive side, when you get put in a pick-and-roll coverages, how do you handle that? Because you can't switch with them. One-on-one on the island. No, Kevin, don't do this, Kevin. Kevin, don't do this.
Don't
do this, Kevin.
I see the
Don't
eyes.
do this one,
That's
Kevin.
not going to be my primary defense with him.
Don't do this, Kevin. He cannot switch onto a Kyrie Irving or a Luka Doncic.
Well,
He is getting
that's
cooked.
a different story.
Shea Gilgeous, we can go down the list. He
Not
is getting
getting cooked.
Here's the politically correct way to say it, King. He's a traditional big.
I mean, but can you be a traditional big right now in the NBA and expect to win? I
It's
don't
become
know.
traditional because it's become rare. Like
Yeah.
it's definitely not the progressive center position. And look, he's a polarizing player. Not everybody believes he can execute on this level. But
The one thing that surprises me is that he's only averaged 17.5 minutes per game in his career. That's the one thing that stands out.
and he had a foot injury last year.
And he had a foot injury last year as well.
But
So
I'm looking at Pelton's list here, and number 2 says Donovan Clingan.
Wait, hold on, because I feel like Wendy is throwing shots. It's about the 4th time now.
I mean, the data is the
about the
data.
fourth
He's got him number 2 on his board.
Yeah,
He
I'm
was
not
number
that high.
1 last year when he was backing up Adama Sanogo.
Well,
So what's your ultimate ceiling on this guy?
So I think there's a lot of elements of Rudy Gobert potentially there. And same thing where, look, we saw what happened when Gobert ended up switched on Doncic in the conference finals. That's not what you want him to do. You want him to hang back around the rim and block everything because he does have the ability to do that like Gobert. I mean, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year is too much to ask for any 20-year-old. But I think that's the kind of ceiling. And then offensively, that's the bigger question mark because as you mentioned, The athleticism, to me, the biggest issue is he doesn't jump.
Yeah.
So Gobert, so much of his offense is vertical spacing out of the pick and roll. Can you find a way for Clingan to be productive offensively without that? And maybe that requires him to develop as a three-point shooter.
So my biggest thing is defensively, right? When you look at Clingan on defense with more space on an NBA court, will the block rate, will his rim protection look the exact same? Because now I think you're having to chase a guy like a Jokic off a pick and pop, right? So now it looks different. I mean, I don't think you played against high-level bigs in college. So you can kind of sort of hide yourself a little bit because there's no three in the key. A lot of bigs don't pop, they don't shoot, they're not as versatile. So now, will the rim protection look the exact same with more space on the floor? Because I don't think his mobility and his foot speed is that great.
Wendy, do you think that defense that Donovan Clingan had at UConn, that championship defense that he helped have out there on the floor, will it translate into the NBA?
Well, I liked how aggressive for a guy who's limited athletically, he's not going to win any foot races. He really did, I felt, work hard on the defensive end. He had an instinct to really work on the defensive end. If this was 2007, even, forget about 1987, this was 2007, he might be the #1 pick in the draft, him or Zach Edey. But Portland is prioritizing defense. You know, a couple hours ago, whatever it is, 90 minutes ago, they made a trade for Denny Avdia. He's an excellent two-way wing player. I mean, it's not going to headline any, analysis of this night, but Portland is trying to upgrade their defense. I question, their two top picks last 2 years, Scoot Henderson and Donovan Clingan. I don't know how they fit together. It's not a, prototypical thing you would see in 2024. But also, the Spurs are back on the clock here. We'll see what they do. They got a guard in the first thing here, in their first pick at the four. There was some thoughts that they would maybe take Clingan if they had a chance at 4. They are now going to have a chance at 8. But it will be it'll be interesting to see the direction that the Spurs go here. This also is a pick that I wouldn't completely rule out being traded because the Spurs are looking to add to their ready-made players, and we're getting down to the spots where, where somebody would trade for value would be. So I think the Spurs have an interesting pick here, and it'll kind of solidify where the draft are going. There's some guys who are kind of high up on some draft boards who are still up there as a product of Ron Holland, Ron Holland going and Salon going up there. So. There could be some teams that might have interest in moving into 8 here. We'll see.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question because I feel like the main objective of the Spurs this offseason should be building around Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
What do you think, King, that the Spurs do here? Do they make a trade? Do they make a pick here and then down the line do something else? Like, what do you think they're thinking going into this pick?
Well, what I really wanted to happen, which didn't happen. I wanted them to get Clingan at 4 and then get a guy like Rob Dillingham at 8. And the reason why is because Rob Dillingham is an absolute bucket getter. I believe in him 110% that he has star potential. And you might disagree, but I believe in him 110%.
Continuously disagree.
Well, that's on everyone.
But he's not in Pelton's top 10. I'm just going to leave it at that.
I believe it. But what I will say is that we know that the one area that Rob Dillingham struggles in is defense. Well, if you get Clingan and you have Wemby at the 4-5 spot, move Wemby to the 4. Now that cleans up for all his deficiencies on the defensive side. So I would have loved them right here to go get a guy like Rob Dillingham. Yeah. But what they're going to do right now at 8, I have no idea. Because now you have Stephon Gals. I have no idea what they're going to do. I mean, they might trade it if they really want to go get something that's more ready right now. But I would have loved to see them draft Rob Dillingham. I mean, who knows? They still might. But I don't know.
Well, King, you're gonna be happy here. Buddy.
Oh, they did it.
I feel like,
they did it. Wow.
Wendy's got the upper hand here. I feel like you already know what the pick is.
Wow.
There we go. Rob Dillingham.
King is happy.
There we go.
And look, King tried to make it seem, he's like, well, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, but if I was them, this is what I would do. Obviously, you like this pick, King. I mean, how do you think this fits in or translates once, the Spurs get going?
But possibly not for the Spurs. He's going number 8, but possibly not staying in San Antonio.
But Wendy, the wheels are turning. What's happening here?
Let's just talk about Dillingham as a prospect.
Yeah, I'll talk about Dillingham.
Go ahead, all day.
Because I think we talk about crazy high comparisons, I think that Rob Dillingham can be Darius Garland. I think that he is that level of good. When you look at his shot selection, right, he was very efficient, 44 from the three, 48 from the field. But if you look at the types of shots that he was taking, everything is almost tough with this man. So to be able to put it in the rim at a 44% clip from behind the arc on the level of shots that he was taking, he is an elite level scorer. Also averaged 4 assists a game. Playmaking, setting guys up, right? He can still get better at that area. He's not great at it yet, but he's good. 4 assists, 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio guy. I think that this guy has everything that you need to be a star. Like, look at this finish right here. This finish is absolutely disgusting.
Ooh.
He has everything you need to be a star in today's NBA. All he needs to do is just give effort on the defensive side. And I hate to say this.
I know, all Amina, the good stuff that you say,
I know.
And now
it breaks my heart, but he has to give effort.
Effort on defense.
He doesn't give effort.
That's a big question mark for me. That's a big question mark.
He doesn't give effort, but gives a little bit.
So Woj is on this. He's being traded to Minnesota. Let's see what Minnesota is giving up here. So first off,
let's get those figures flying because.
There we go.
Well, again, I think San Antonio is looking for players who can help right now.
Yeah.
So let's see if there's a rotation player coming to San Antonio. I'll almost say something else here. Dillingham, he weighed in at 164 at the draft combine.
Yeah, he's small.
That alarms some people. Now, obviously, he's not fully developed. He's going to get a chance to put on some weight, but 164 is a scary number. The scouts that I talked to think that he might be ticketed to be a great bench scorer. They sort of see him maybe as that type of, play, like a Lou Williams type player. Yeah. Cam Thomas. Am I bringing you down a little bit?
You bring me down a little bit. Listen, I'm going to go the opposite way because I don't know. I played against Darius Garland when I was in college, and the one thing that I noticed is, he's probably about 6'2", 6'3", but he was extremely small too, right? The size does concern me a little bit because can you get bumped off of some of your trying to get to your spots? Can you get bumped off your path a little bit? But I don't know. The numbers just don't lie. What they say, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't ever lie. So I just think that his shooting efficiency from the field on the amount of tough shots he took just translates into today's NBA, and I think he has everything that you need in order to be a really, really elite scorer on this level.
And what do you like about him? And then with that trade as well, Minnesota trading to get him. And that's a team that looked really, really, really good in the postseason.
So it's fascinating because obviously you have Mike Conley signed, an extension that is going to pay him less the next couple of years. But Minnesota needs a point guard of the future. They have got to be looking at Dillingham and saying, like you say, that he can be our lead guard as opposed to just kind of a combo guard off the bench for them to be giving up whatever it is they're giving up when they don't have many draft picks available to trade to get the number 8 pick and get Dillingham. And I think that it was funny because I saw an interview, I think it was on Airways with John Calipari, where he was saying, hey, don't sleep on guards at Kentucky.
They're all
Emmanuel
good.
Quickly, Tyrese Maxey, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. These guys keep going lower. And, of course, the reason for that is because those guys had no spacing around them in John Calipari's offense at Kentucky. So he's kind of telling on himself a little bit. But if you believe that he can be even better, granting that he did have Reed Sheppard's 50% shooting next to him, then that's maybe the biggest reason to get excited.
Also, on this pick, look at who the Timberwolves have.
Yeah. The Timberwolves are trading a 2031 unprotected first and a protected 2030 pick swap to the Spurs for Dillingham. Sources tell ESPN. That's from our Adrian Wojnarowski. So you got the details right there.
But if you listen, we talked about his lack of defense. Well, 2 through 5 on that Timberwolves team are playing defense. So you can work around it and figure it out.
I will say this: Memphis is coming here. The Timberwolves that just added money to their payroll, and Minnesota, has been worried about money a little bit. So that
Zach Edey going to Memphis.
You want to know why he's so? King, you want to know why he's so happy?
Why?
Because where's Zach Edey on your projections?
number 4. I don't know. I believe that.
He likes traditional bigs.
Jumped out of his seat.
He loves traditional bigs.
He does. We learned that about him tonight.
I have him much lower again in my actual board.
Zach Edey going to the Memphis Grizzlies. What do you like about this pick with you just jumping out of the seat right there?
Well, I mean, he has been the most productive college basketball player by far the last couple of seasons. And I think one of the things that sets him apart from some of the other seniors in this draft, and we'll talk at some point about Dalton Connect, who's dropping a little bit, I would say, compared to what we expected, is Edey was this productive when he got minutes right away.
Yeah.
You know, as a sophomore, he was splitting time with Travion Williams and was already just, tremendously efficient, and then was able to translate into a larger role the last couple of years. I have a lot of questions about how it's going to work defensively for him in the NBA along the lines of what I think much more so than Clingan.
Yeah, 100%.
So can he be more than like a Boban Marjanovic type in the NBA? I think is the big question here.
Memphis was determined to get a center tonight, and this is the center that they got. He's a polarizing player, Zach Edey. I mean, he has worked on his body. He has gotten, a little bit closer to maybe what you would like to see in a guy who can play NBA minutes, but his feet are slow, man. His feet are slow. I mean, you're talking about Clingan with slow feet.
Yeah.
Zeke, he is extremely skilled with his hands. He is 7'4". He's got a 9'7" standing reach. He basically can dunk the ball on his tiptoes. So he is going to be able to put the ball in the basket, but he is going to be a target. And Pelton, the fact that you even said Boban, that's worrisome at the 9th pick. I think there's a spot at this draft where that's a worthwhile pick. The 9th pick is a little bit worrisome. But Memphis, I will say this, Memphis, their track record in the draft is generally pretty good. And they've generally, when they've gotten their guy, they've done well. Again, I'm waiting for additional information to potentially present itself about just how serious those talks with Charlotte got between 9 and 6 and how close they could have been to Clingan. And as Clingan and Edey go through their rookie seasons, we might be talking about how this all played out in this last 25 minutes.
King, how do you think Zach Edey's skills will translate over into the NBA?
Yeah, I have some concerns, to say the least.
You got a lot of concerns tonight. You got a lot of notes.
But what I will say is this thing I'm most impressed with him. He won National Player of the Year. How many guys do we see win National Player of the Year in one season and then get better? Right? He put in the work and he improved his game. Typically, you win National Player of the Year, you got it made, my guy. You are on to a fast track to success. You can stay the same and you're fine, right? He actually improved. He improved his touch. He improved his finishing. He improved with his hands. He got overall better that next year, and he won back-to-back Player of the Years. So that's what I'll say. I'm impressed because of his work ethic and his wanting to be great. However, he is limited. Limited with his foot speed, limited with his mobility. I think that can cause a major concern, especially we keep talking about the pick and roll coverage. Now, I will say he's getting cooked in the NBA if he gets onto a switch. 100% getting cooked. Oh, my gosh. So that's my concern. All
right, let's send it back out to Chicago to the Numbers on the Board podcast with the Utah Jazz pick coming in.
Thank y'all. It's been pandemonium. Let's wait for this pick for the Jazz, which is Cody Williams.
That's
Cody Williams from Colorado ends up with Utah. Let's talk about him for a little bit and then go back to reference some of the other stuff that's happened.
I like this pick for Utah. This is a guy that I think can come in there and do a lot of the different things that they need. I was concerned about how the draft was going to pan out because they have Taylor Hendricks, they have Keontae George, so I was kind of concerned that Ryan Holland would be off the board and they would have to take a pick at positions that they have filled. But I think they continue to get younger. They continue to get more lengthier. Walker Kessler, Taylor Hendrick, and Cody Williams looking like your front court of the future potentially. And then you have Keontae George. So there are some things building here. I'm still really focused when it comes to Utah on the rest of the pieces that they have. What's going on with Larry Markkinen? That's kind of been quiet. What's going on with Jordan Clarkson? Because there are some directions that they could go to continue to build. They have another pick at 29 that they may try to use to come up some more, which I've heard. So it'll be interesting to see what the Jazz do. But I do like this pick. Cody Williams being here at 10 is almost a steal.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's one of my favorite prospects in this draft. I think when you're talking about having all the tools to be an elite defender in this league, I think he has all that. And I think he's really good to watch in transition. He's very crafty at finishing around the basket. he might not be yamming on you, but he has like the scoop layups, the little floaters. The flow game is elite with him. So he definitely has all the tools to be a good scorer in this league. If you try to chase him off the three-point line, he could do enough. So I like Cody Williams a lot, man.
And just the ability to play multiple positions. You already said they have players that they're kind of looking to mold and everything like that. One thing that I love about Cody Williams is the wingspan. It was like +5 based off his height. So anytime you have a player like that, it's just kind of dynamic wingspan. You got to love it.
And he ended his last season injured.
Yes, he did.
So, maybe not the best ending for him, but
Played through injury though. That's a sight to see in a world where guys are very quick to sit out.
And Utah got their guy, man. It's a very interesting team they building over there.
Very
but
interesting.
I never questioned Danny Ainge.
Futuristic.
Because they don't really have a guy that's like the guy. Except for Larry Markkinen, essentially.
Okay.
But like, I don't think Larry Markkinen is like a staple in the future for this team.
Well, that's just what comes with being good for 2 months every year, and then decide like, we don't really want to be good anymore. You end up with the 9th and 10th pick.
I mean, that's part of just rebuilding, I guess.
Yeah.
I really do like this pick, though. I really do like this pick and what he brings. Connector piece, really Nick Batum-ish vibes where is he going to be the face of the franchise? He's 19, young man, so who knows? But
the future's bright for him, for sure.
For sure. And we saw his Did we do it?
We're going golfing, fellas.
All right, that's an inside joke that we'll get to once the Bulls do what they do. This is the most nerve-wracking I've been for a draft since we had number 4 and pick Patrick Williams. Didn't love that pick when it happened.
I'm sorry.
Probably don't love it now.
I'm sorry. The phone is going off because there's some information about the next pick, and as we're Chicagoans, everybody in the Chicagoland area likes to support each other. We all one big family. But there was some chaos before Cody Williams.
Yes, we saw Rob Dillingham get drafted. And if y'all would have had a shot of us when that happened, we were like, whoa, what is going on? Because, of course, you take Stephon Castle at number 4. It would have been weird for them to take another point guard. But instead, they flip it to go to the the Timberwolves for a future first-round pick and another swap.
And it's unprotected first round.
Unprotected in
Unprotected
2031.
is crazy.
I think the Spurs really.
I'm far into my 30s.
I think they cooked. I think they cooked them with the youngins called Fleece, the Timberwolves. Because the reason I say that is because I think the Spurs didn't see anything that they wanted, which is why they traded out, and they had already got their guy. And then, like Darrick said, you got a 2030 first-round pick unprotected. I don't know what the Timberwolves are going to look like by then. And then you had also got a protected 2029 pick or something like that, I think. So you get 2 first-round picks, essentially, for Rob Dillingham, who's going to go to the Timberwolves and come off their bench.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at him as like a nice score off the bench, as a nice little 6-man over there. And I think that's perfect role for him to come in as a rookie and to go into that transition to that perfectly. Yeah. Maybe he could be Mike Conley's replacement as he continues to develop.
That's probably what they're thinking.
Yeah.
It's a combination of a lot of pressure and no pressure. Right, because it's a lot of pressure because Minnesota's a team that's trying to compete every single season after their run. But it's kind of no pressure because you got Anthony Edwards, you still have Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert. You're not going to be asked if you're Rob Dillingham.
And you're coming off the bench. That's kind of why I see it as no pressure.
The aura of that backcourt.
I just love the fact that he's going into a situation that's going to allow him to be him. I think the most important thing, and probably what is making Clutch and Rich Paul happy, is he's going to be able to be him. When you're a guy like him, as electrifying and looking to score want the ball in your hands, you don't really want to go anywhere where they take the power away for that and try to mold you into something that you're not. Hopefully, Minnesota is knowing what they're getting, and it will allow him to be that. And I think that's the best part of that trade. We also saw the Hornets take Tijan Salon. So, like, there's a lot of stuff going on. Zach Edey went 9 to the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies said, we leaving here with some size. We don't care.
I'm actually not even a fan of that.
Really?
I just don't think Zach Edey's like their mold of center that they need. Like, I feel like he's very slow-footed. He's not very.
But you also have Jaren.
You
have Jaren.
No, but also, years ago. And I feel like Zach Edey is
Steven
one of those
Adams
dudes
wasn't some. He wasn't some. Nicholas
but also,
Claxton.
I feel like he also was more mobile. He wasn't crazy mobile, but he was more mobile.
He wasn't that big.
And also, Zach Edey, one of those dudes that in college, they gave him the ball and let him pound for 6 dribbles. He's not going to be able to do that in Memphis.
Oh, no.
So I'm curious to see what his role would be on the offensive side of the ball.
I just think that they got a guy that they saw fit with a need. They're a team that, what's their hole? That position. So they went and tried to fill it.
Claxton re-signed, so they couldn't go pursue him.
Boom.
So.
They weren't able to get Clingan because the deal didn't go through.
So
that's my thing.
All the bigs was flying off the board.
We knew this was going to be the type of draft where teams are going to reach for the players that they want. And I'm agreeing with y'all. He probably don't got to play, above 20 minutes a game or anything like that. When you do need that time you need a guy or a big that can switch, Jaren, you back at the 5 right now.
Yeah, I like it. Versatility in the lineups. But they're going to come in next year, and they're going to be looking to get right back into the mix, right back in that Western Conference playoff mix. Here we see the Chicago Bulls. Their pick is in.
He's got the tears going already.
I mean,
That's the little homie.
To get drafted at
Midas
home, man.
Buzelis coming home, baby. We going golfing, little bro.
Can we say
is out.
that in the Artunis Karnisovas era, of the 5 draft picks he's made, 2 of them have been Chicago?
shout out to Ayo.
Ayo Dosunmu. He just loves his city, man.
I don't blame him. I mean, if Chicago produces talent, man. The guys there from Chicago, you might as well bring them in.
Shout out to my little bro just had a tournament, the off-season tournament at Riverside Brookfield. His brother was playing in it. So you just showed, he pulled up, it just showed you how much he loved being home. And then now I see him crying, and he's going to the Bulls, and the phone is blowing up, and I'm sure his phone blowing up, which is why he already crying before they announced the pick.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine him getting drafted to play for Chicago.
I know, right?
I would probably be crying too.
I would too.
Man, if I get drafted to anybody, I'm crying. I'll be honest.
But for Chicago, it's
At
like
home, it's different.
It's way
You around
hard.
your big beefs and deep dish pizza and
You thought
mild
you was gonna leave
sauce.
him behind. No, he's there with you.
Yeah, everybody ain't got Italian beefs.
Have
know.
we told the story of the golf and stuff? No, right?
No.
We
No.
interviewed a bunch of different prospects at the draft combine, and Midas Buzelis, somehow we ended up talking about golfing. He was mentioning that was one of his things in his pastime. We showed him our individual golf swings as we're starting to
No,
get
you
into golf.
showed him. You showed him me
I
and
was-
Derek's
I was a
worst
little thirsty
swings,
about
and
it.
you showed him your best swing. Yeah.
It is what it is.
Also, the dude that took lessons.
Yep. You got to be smart with it. I'm not going to jump into a new hobby without being good at it. And we played golf before we came here. This guy broke my driver.
He did.
He literally broke my
There
driver.
it is. The
which
selection is in.
Crazy.
Midas
Y'all know I
Buzelis,
don't know
welcome
how to
home. Yes, sir.
This is a beautiful pick, man.
I love it, man.
I'm so happy for the Bulls.
I love it. I didn't know who was going to be here. I was kind of setting myself up to maybe reach, if you will, for another big because the Vucevic era has not been as amazing as I wanted it to be. Little did I know that the guy that was literally #1 on my big board for the Bulls specifically, not for the entire draft, would be here at number 11. So
He said he wanted to come back on the show and do a real lengthy episode. So now
it's
you
set
can
in stone.
come. You can come do half the season there, brother. You could be the 5th member.
It was him or Cody Williams for me. As on my big board to come to Chicago.
It was Donovan Clingan for me.
Donovan
and then, Midas Buzelis or Wing. I just felt like if the Bulls were able to walk away with in this draft with Donovan Clingan, that would have been crazy for them.
That would have been the Vucevic replacement. Vucevic would have been traded.
No. Donovan Clingan is not a guy that's going to come into the league and play 30-plus minutes. He only played 22 minutes a game last year for UConn. He's had foot problems and different things like that, so you want to ease him in there. But he would have definitely been working his way into becoming that full-blown replacement for sure. But we got Lil Bro back to the crib. This is crazy, man. How many times in our life are we going to see a Chicago and get drafted by the Bulls?
as long as Artunis Karnisovas is in charge every other year.
But even before him, we were seeing D. Rose came back to the dig.
He's the greatest.
So now, is
They
this
signed Jabari.
what's the
They drafted-
most Bulls players that they've had on the roster that's been from Chicago? Because right now we got Javon, Ayo. Now
That's probably
Midas.
it. I'm gonna be honest with you.
The 3.
I think that's probably it. Because in Derrick Rose's era, I can't think of it being more than one other person.
Who's the one other person?
No, I can't think of anything.
Yeah.
He's just saying if it was,
Yeah.
it was not more than that.
So this is it, man. This is how you build a team, I guess. I mean, obviously the Bulls made a trade about last week to bring in Josh Giddey.
Yes.
And we're not thinking about fit for Josh Giddey as of right now, considering it looked like we're going for
Accumulating talent, man.
Just get the
Accumulate
talent. This guy could have been the first overall pick if his jump shot failed at the G League
That's what he
Ignite.
told us.
So him being here at number 11 is dope. They go to Bulls in their war room, looking really not as excited as they should.
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
Yeah,
They
they,
like
they look like oh well, we took them.
Yeah, here it is. All right.
I kind of like it, man. I think this gives the Bulls an opportunity to play a little fast, play with a little bit more tempo, play young. And I'm very excited for the future because you can go Ayo, Cody, Josh Giddey, Matas at the 4, and then you can go Vooch at the 5. Y'all can run with a little
Robert
bit of
Williams
tempo.
not coming back.
Patrick Williams.
I'm
Patrick
sorry.
and
Patrick Williams not coming
Kobe.
back?
You said Cody. You said Robert.
I'm out.
We
He
all over the
definitely
place.
said Cody.
Patrick Williams, I mean, he was coming off the bench for a portion of the year with the Bulls, but he could still start.
If we're
Maybe-
rebuilding and Patrick Williams don't start, we might as well don't match
For
whatever
sure.
he gets
Yeah.
offered.
For sure. I think Patrick Williams is
Patrick
your
Williams
4.
probably going to start, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's your 4. I think you got Midas playing the 3.
No, I
if he
think Josh
starts.
Giddey's probably going to play the 3.
So who's the backcourt?
It's going to be Ayo and Cody.
Kobe.
Stop saying
Kobe. I don't know why I keep saying Kobe.
Io is your starter, not Zach LaVine.
Josh
Well,
Giddey is going to start at point guard.
Yeah,
Kobe will be the off guard. It will be Modest, and this is assuming rebuild, obviously.
Zach LaVine
Patrick
is standing
Williams.
this team, fellas. Zach LaVine is your shooting guard. Kobe White is your point. Josh Giddey is your point forward. And then you got Pat and Vucevic and Modest Buzelis
I
and
was
Io coming
mentally
off the
preparing
bench.
for a new era. I
was so excited about this draft pick, and now you bringing up bad stuff, man.
Why is that bad?
I was anticipating no Zach, no DeBar. We going full young into the rebuild.
Hey, man, I need you to focus on saying names right. You just said DeBar.
I said DeMar.
No, you said DeBar.
DeMar.
Come on, man. Lock in.
I ate some deep dish.
So,
my mind is a little
cool. So,
foggy.
Wait. Before we go back to Bristol, what would you grade this pick for the Bulls?
I would grade it A+.
Grading it.
B+.
Grade it.
A+.
A+, S.
How y'all
It's
giving
an
it
S
an A? How y'all giving it an A?
Because I'm
11?
biased, all right? Because I'm biased.
Oh,
I
if we
need
just
him to
doing
be
it for
great.
Modest coming home, then A+. But
Yeah, I
if
don't
we
know
just doing
anybody
it in
else
a
on that.
landscape,
Oh, no. Well,
send it back.
yeah, Bristol, let us know. Are we bugging about
I got to call
this?
Modest.
I don't know, maybe A+ might be a bit much, but you know what? I'm giving it to y'all because it's a hometown kid. He's from Chicago. He's
Welcome
staying
home,
with the
Modest.
Bulls, all the tears, all the things. So I'll let y'all have that. But Wendy, A+ with
I don't know.
Buzelis
I'm
in
not giving
Chicago?
grades. I'm not giving grades on draft night, but I would
He's not
say,
giving grades.
this is a guy who some people had going as high as 5 to the Pistons. He didn't shoot the ball great at the Ignite. By the way, the Ignite which has been folded. It's 2 more lottery picks here tonight, so I should point that out. It's going to be one of the moments of the draft, seeing him sitting there crying at the table, knowing he's getting picked by his hometown Chicago Bulls. So that's kind of cool. That's going to be a good memory. He was kind of ugly crying there with his brother.
A little bit.
But that's great. It's going to be a great memory. We're going to remember that. I'm not sure I can always understand what the Bulls are doing, to be honest with you. So, I think in a league where you need shooting, his shooting was a little bit concerning, especially since they just traded for a young player in Josh Giddey who isn't a good shooter. So at some point this week, maybe the Bulls should get a shooter. But this is a lottery pick. He's very, very raw. I've had scouts compare him to Kyle Anderson, which I don't know if that's
interesting.
Yeah, I do. Before I hear what you guys say on this, because I know you had Buzelis farther down, Pelton. I just want to point out some things on this Rob Dillingham pick. This is actually going to be a good moment for tonight. First off, you were very excited that the Timberwolves went up. Timberwolves giving a pick swap and a first-round pick here. Very aggressive going up. Bobby Marks tells us that trading for Rob Dillingham is going to cost the Timberwolves $28 million in salary, in tax and salary. So it's a very aggressive move. They really wanted this guy. It is unusual to see a contender trade up into the lottery. I mean, if you're going to spend this type of money, you're thinking this guy's going to play for you.
Yeah.
So let me just say, before we look at the picks I just made, this Dillingham pick is shaping up, this trade is shaping up to be one of the more interesting things that's happened tonight. But I'll let you talk about Buzelis.
Yeah, really quickly, because I want to get to this poll, and I know that Wendy wasn't giving out any grades, but 52% of people, they given this pick, Buzelis, an A. I know our guys in Chicago, they gave it an A+, A++.
Are they doing that because he's crying?
Of course. And he's been on the podcast and everything, so it's like a personal connection there. So I could see why they would do that. But just really quickly, what you like about Buzelis and him going to the Bulls?
He's an NBA-level athlete with a high upside on the defensive side. Led Ignite, set the Ignite record for blocks. Great help side defender, one-on-one on ball. Not yet great, but I think that he has a chance to be. I personally think if he can improve his shooting and his on-ball defense, he'll be solid. I actually kind of like this pick right here. I like this young man right here.
Okay, this is a long-term play here from the Thunder. Nikola Topic, Serbian. The Thunder have scouted over there before. They've taken several Serbians in the last few years. They haven't all worked out. The last 2 Serbians they've had, they got rid of relatively quickly. But okay, the thing about Topic, he's got a torn ACL. So not ideal to draft a guy with a torn ACL. He is a guy he's a big point guard. And from what the scouts tell me, he gets a lot of his offense going to the basket. He's not a guy who is a big-time shooter. I think whenever you see a player like this, you say, does he translate athletically? because the league he comes from in Serbia is not a great league athletically. But you just said the same thing about Luka Doncic, in all honesty. But this is a long-term play. He won't play for the Thunder next year. He'll get surgery and have to rehab. But he was one of the top player in Europe this year, right?
Yeah, he's great. I mean, finishing, and from finishing perspective, 67% at the rim, really good. Great playmaker.
Top player in Europe that was in the draft, to be clear. Sorry.
Great playmaker. What's so interesting about him is that he's such a great finisher, but everything he does is below the rim. I don't know if I've ever seen this young man really dunk a basketball, and if I have, maybe like one time. So he's a great finisher, great below-the-rim finisher, can really read out the pick and roll, doesn't shoot it well. That's a common theme that we're seeing a lot. A lot of players in this draft just don't shoot it well. But he has the mechanics. He shoots 86% from the free throw line, which is a good indicator that he has potential to, but he shoots a real flat ball. Doesn't really get any much arc on it, so I don't like the fact it's almost like he's shooting darts, right? I don't love that, but I think the 86% tells me that he can grow into that. But he's a great passer, great size, deceptively quick, but finishing, playmaking, size is what I think will.
He's number 3 on Pelton's board. I'm just kidding.
King and I saw the exact same thing, particularly the flat shot. I think stood out to me. And so this is interesting. We talked about Detroit with Fred Vinson and the hope that they can turn Ron Holland into a shooter. Well, Oklahoma City has Chip England, who, over the course of his career going back to San Antonio, is maybe the most highly regarded shot doctor in the league. And I think they are counting on him being able to improve Topic's shooting, because otherwise, you're talking about some similarities to the guy they just traded to Chicago in terms of Josh Giddey, someone who needs the ball in his hands to be effective.
Well, also, I point out, they lost Chet Holmgren for his whole rookie season. They didn't know that when they drafted him. It happened shortly thereafter. And they did a lot of work on him, got him polished up, and got him in really a good spot for when he started his career in his second year. After having that experience and having someone, that they just did it with, that's what they're facing with Topic here. And so I think that may, they'll have a program for him and get that taken care of.
Yeah, and you talked about, Wendy, Topic and the fact that, he probably won't see the floor this upcoming season. He's going to obviously have some things to work on with the ACL and things like that. But one thing that stood out to me, King, was the fact that, him falling flat a bit athletically, not having that athleticism. Does that concern you with him making that transition to the NBA where the game is getting quicker? And obviously that 3 ball is something that has become a hot topic in the NBA. It's like, you even got bigs. Bigs are out there shooting threes. So I'm just saying, those are things I would think are concerning coming into the NBA.
And what's even more concerning is the fact that he already was an athlete. Now you're coming off an ACL injury. Now you have to rehab. You have to strengthen up just to get back to the level that you were at. And 100%, you're not a great athlete. How will he recover from that? That's even more concerning for me. But I think that he's one of those guys, when you look at a lot of foreigners, they play more so with their mind than they do their athleticism. So I think that that's what gives him a chance. So I'm more concerned about his shooting. Can he grow into that shooter? And I think that while you're resting, while you're rehabbing, I think that's one thing that they will be working with him on every single day, right? You can't run, you can't really walk, you can do form shots. We can work on the elevation on your shot. We can work on your follow through, the arc. We can work on all of that, right? While you are rehabbing. So you can do it in a chair, you can do it standing up. You don't have to put a lot of pressure on that needed in order to do that. How he comes back, if he can shoot the basketball, I think, will determine how good his career is.
Kevin, how critical do you think that will be to his development and him transitioning into the NBA?
I don't know if I think it's make or break, but particularly with the fit for Oklahoma City. Because, again, we saw those issues with Giddey as someone who needed the ball in his hands, playing with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams, because you're going to have to be really good to deserve to have the ball in your hands over those 2 guys. So I think it determines whether he's kind of, just a nice piece for them, like a Veseli Micic, who played a little bit for them last season, or whether he can actually be a core part of this foundation going forward. But, one of the things with Oklahoma City, if there's any team in this year's draft that can afford to have somebody who's not going to come in and play next year, it's OKC. It's
OKC. Okay, we're looking at the Sacramento Kings right now, picking at 13th overall. Their pick is in. We're waiting for it to come up. What direction do you think they're going here, Wendy?
This pick was on offer in trade negotiations a lot of today. So let's see. Looks like they're going to keep it. I think they're going, I'll just let that announcement here, but I think they're going with Devin Carter.
Okay.
This is the son of Anthony Carter.
There you go, Devin Carter.
Former NBA role player for many years. This is a guy, King, who's jumped up the draft. He's 22 years old.
Yeah.
You know, you get a lottery pick at age 22. That's not something we see every year. This is a guy who really, really rose up the draft boards late in the process. There's a lot of people who like his makeup. I like his hair.
I was about to say, I mean,
the suit is fire.
Look, I need the curl routine, okay? Because the curls look good.
But look at the baby blue.
This hits you where you live, Amina.
I'm just saying the curls, they look really refreshed. They look real juicy and moisturized. I mean, the first thing I saw when he got on the screen, I was like, oh, wow, what products is he using? Is he using the same products?
He does not have the same look as his dad.
But the confidence, you talk about what a lottery pick should dress like.
Here we go.
That's giving star.
It's
like
giving star
no
power.
shirt underneath.
Yeah.
That's really bold.
Shades on, like that's different. You got to be a different dude
He's from
to
Miami.
walk up there like that. Yeah.
Oh, well, then it
Miami.
makes sense,
Yeah.
okay?
But you know what's crazy? He dressed like a pretty boy, but when you see that man on the court, he is not that at all. He gets as dirty as it can get, right? You talk about so many good defensive players in the Big East last year. You talk about Donovan Clingan averaging 3 blocks per game, Tristan Newton, Stephon Castle, a guy. There were so many good defensive players, Iguodala at Marquette. But Devin Carter was Defensive Player of the Year in the conference. And mind you, not only was he that, he averaged 20 points per game and 9 rebounds. The best rebounding guard that I have seen in a long time. Almost averaged a double-double all year. He will lock you down, but also get buckets. And what's most impressive to me is that his sophomore year, he shot 30% from 3. His junior year on more attempts, he shot 38. That big of a jump, 8% difference while you're literally locking up the best team's player shows me that you can go anywhere on any team and instantly play. This right here is a good pick for the Kings, and I love his upside because he is a guy you can plug in immediately.
Rebounds, right, Pelton? Rebounds like a mini
nine
machine.
a
That you
game.
mentioned, yeah, and that's usually a
Not a
strong
game.
indicator for guards. I mean, the interesting thing is this is a spot that Sacramento has been trying to fill with this player type
Yes.
for a long period of time. I mean, Davion Mitchell, I'm curious, since you know him so well, how you'd compare him. But then Keon Ellis as well. So they've gone through like a variety of these kind of tough, a little bit undersized guards to maybe play with or play behind De'Aaron Fox. And here's their latest shot at that.
And the kid is a freak, 6'3" with a 6'9" wingspan. Ooh. I mean, right there, you put your arms out, you're scratching your
Again,
knees.
not like his dad.
Wait a minute.
That is not like his
That's
dad.
like something my grandma would say. Wait a minute.
But listen, this is the thing. We children of NBA players. It is definitely a thing, and
Tom Haberstroh wrote about it recently. Yeah, or a former colleague.
and he plays a different game than his dad. His dad did not have a 6'9" wingspan. I don't believe. I'll have to go look up his draft combine numbers, but I don't think he had a 6'9" wingspan. It's the next level, and Sacramento is looking to upgrade its roster, and with this kind of pick, it may enable them to move on from Davion Mitchell and, put him in it. Kevin Huerter is another guy who's been mentioned in some trade talks. They kept this pick. We'll see if they keep it long term, but Sac has been looking for an upgrade on the wing. There's a couple of players who are available who, Cam Johnson is one of them, expected to move from the Nets that they may have interest in. So we'll see if Devin Carter stays in Sac. But either way, I think it gives them some surplus that they can use potentially to get a more veteran player.
All right, the Portland Trail Blazers, their pick is in. Let's send it out to Chicago to the Numbers on the Board podcast to see what they have to say about the pick that's coming in.
Yeah, it should be an interesting one. It's part of the Denny Abdia trade.
Yeah, so
we'll see exactly what they end up doing because they traded Denny, and Denny's a nice little player.
hey man, that's probably the trade of today that I'm just going to continue to scratch my head on. I really like, from a Wizard standpoint, I really like Denny. And I also hate social media that we live in. I say that this is one of the craziest, dumbest trades I've seen. And people was like, but Portland got a hooper. Yeah, I'm not talking about Portland. I'm talking about the Wizards trading the hooper for no apparent reason.
Unless they're really high on whoever they end up picking here.
I don't know.
No.
What's up?
But I know who they're picking, and it's not anybody that is.
What they running the team? They might think that Bub Carrington is the guy.
Oh,
They
I mean,
couldn't
if they
pass
think
up
that's the
on.
guy, I thought you meant like from playing a position that Denny plays. But yeah,
okay.
yeah. If they really love somebody at this part, and I guess, but I really like Denny a lot, man. I think he's a
Denny's
very
going to be
underrated guy.
progressively better than anybody you draft at 14. So this is why it was such a W for the Blazers.
Here we go. The pick is in. This is Kenny's. By the way, y'all, this is Kenny's least favorite part of the draft, where we know that Denny has been traded, and it's the Wizards picking Bub Carrington, but they're going to have him wear a Portland Trailblazer hat.
I just see it so many times.
I need you to write a handwritten letter
to Adam Silver himself.
It is one of the dumbest things in basketball.
It's just because they're not official trades.
But it pretty much is official. How many times have we seen it? Like,
I know, I'm with you. I'm not arguing that. I'm just giving a reason behind. We got 60,000 people watching. They might not know. Somebody may be young. Because when I was a kid, I was sure like, I don't get this. But yeah, Bub Carrington to the Portland Trailblazers. I like Bub Carrington. No, he's to the Wizards. I got confused. I like Bub Carrington. I think this is a really good pick for them to get a guard. Obviously, they got Malcolm Brogdon back from Portland. He's not going to stay there probably. Jeremy Grant and him. I mean, I keep saying that, but he's probably going to get flipped again. This goes to what? Bub Carrington, Jordan Poole, Bilal Coulibaly. Who else?
Kuzma's still there.
Kuzma, he's probably going to get traded. Yeah. So you just continue to build in a nice direction. I really was loving where they were going. They had Bilal, Denny, Alex Sarr at number 2 was going to be the power forward or center. You was going to have a nice little trio of defenders there. I'm buying into Jordan Poole year 2. I'm excited to see the backcourt scoring of these two guys.
Jordan Poole seemed like he kind of figured it a little bit more out during the second half of the season. Once he kind of started coming off the bench, he just looked like he became a lot more comfortable.
You better than me, because I was definitely not watching him second half of the season. By that time, it was raps for the Wizards.
I like basketball.
I guess you do.
Ain't nothing wrong with watching.
Bub Carrington should be a really good pick for them, and kind of resembles some of the stuff that Jordan Poole does in terms of like shot creation and all that. But regardless, with a team with not much expectations, he should be really fun to watch without having a really big leash on him.
So does this mean Tyus Jones is out for sure?
Could be. Not
necessarily, though, because I think you can still bring Bub off the bench.
I think we also really like to see player moving so much that we think that because they draft this guy, that means that this guy's out of the way. It's not necessarily the case. I think they can both coexist on the team until the Wizards find something else. And yeah, they must have really just loved the long sleeve shirt, man.
I mean, Bub Carrington is a bucket. I mean, I said it last year with G.G. Jackson, a professional scorer. Bub Carrington's in that one of those modes where, like, that mid-range game, he's able to create space. He may not be the relentless finisher, getting to the basket or anything, but I think that's part of his game that he could develop as he put on weight, get stronger. But the mid-range footwork and ability to handle the ball and create space, that is phenomenal, bro.
So before this pick, one of my few hits from my mock draft, besides the early layup picks that I had, Devin Carter went to the Kings. A big fan of that pick. I don't think a lot of King fans know exactly what they're getting just yet. And Devin Carter, I think he's going to be a guy that gives them a lot of what they need. They're so offensive focused, so many different guys who are looking to score the basketball. He is one of those glue guys at that guard position. Reminds you of like a Caruso, Bruce Brown. Can do a lot of the connecting things while also defending at a high level and just using his athleticism to be a monster on the glass. I really like that pickup for them, man. Gives them a different type of feel to their added roster.
I think he's gonna be what they thought Davion Mitchell would bring. And I think he's gonna do it at a higher level because he's 6'3". Davion Mitchell's like a good 5'10". So like he's able to do a lot more on the basketball court. Like he led the conference in rebounding, which KB told me during the last podcast.
Thank you for the credit.
Like,
you didn't need to give me that.
Like that's just another
Forget
dynamic.
doing research. I'm gonna just go off what KB said.
That's just gonna be a whole nother dynamic they add.
What college you went to?
Providence.
My boy.
Come on now.
KB told you that too?
No.
Yes,
Okay.
KB ain't the draft expert up here.
Who is?
Me.
Oh, he's just lying.
I'm joking. I'm far from it.
Who is?
Kiwi the plug.
Okay. I ain't need you to say it, but I like when he glazed a little bit. Hey, I like being glazed like a Krispy Kreme donut.
But like they said in Bristol, the Sacramento Kings are probably going to be looking to make some other adjustments.
Jeremy Grant, man.
With some other stuff. Kyle Kuzma. They mentioned Cam Johnson, which I think would be a very
and
good
Dorian
fit.
Finney. They could get both. If they get both, I saw a report that said they are interested in Cam Johnson and potentially also Dorian Finney-Smith.
Because I'm trying to think about the cap implications. You got $23 million to Cam Johnson. You got about $15 million to Dorian Finney-Smith.
So we send you Harrison Barnes and we send you Kevin Huerter.
That'll cover about 80%. Trey Lyles on it probably makes it happen.
And probably Davion Mitchell probably have to be in there a little bit. I don't know. Maybe the money, because you just drafted Devin Carter.
Right.
Maybe now you can move him as well.
I don't even know if Trey Lyles can be moved. He might be a free agent, y'all. I'm just going off the top of my brain. I could be wrong. I'm not really sure. But
Either way, it's time for the Kings to make a win now move for sure.
I have a prediction for this next pick, Miami. I'm looking at the draft board. There's still some things up there. Jared McCain out of Duke is who I would take if I was Miami right now. I think he's a guy that can fit that culture. I think he's a lot better of a point guard than he got to show at Duke. And he can knock down a three-point shot. So he'd be able to play off Jimmy, Bam, and all of those guys. And they need a guard who can really, run the offense. So my money is on Jared McCain.
Either that or my prediction is Tristan De Silva. He just seems like a Miami Heat
For
player.
sure.
They like the older players. And
They do. The players that are already kind of well-rounded and do a lot of things. It's just
Absolutely.
they do have the forwards there, but, hey, it's Miami.
There's one front office I always trust, Pat Riley. They always get it right.
They always get it right. All right, we're going to send it back to Bristol and wait for this pick.
All right, thanks so much, guys. Miami Heat on the clock right now, but there's a look. Brooklyn, New York, where the 2024 NBA draft is going down. My hometown. Of course, I have to squeeze that in because I'm a Brooklyn girl. I mean, I miss that. Look at this. Look at this landscape right here. All right, let's get to our magic moment brought to you by State Farm and no one other than Matisse Bozelis to the Bulls. And look at this reaction right here. Hometown kid from Chicago, went to school outside of the city, but of course you get to play for your hometown team in the Chicago Bulls in that moment. Just so genuine. Also,
He grew up on Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah.
I mean,
It's a dream
Luol
come true.
Deng.
it really is.
It's a dream.
Wait, did he grow up on
Did
Derrick
he?
Rose?
I
That's
feel
not
like
abstract
the
concept.
way. Well, I feel like the way that you said that, Wendy, is just. I don't know.
What? He won the MVP. He was a kid. He was watching him. He loved him. That's why. That's
But
why
I'm
he's
saying
crying.
that was 12 years ago, Brian. He was 7.
Well, you can't watch TV when you're 7.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Wow.
We're old.
Oh,
I mean, you
wait.
could watch TV when you're 7.
He
I'm
went
just
to the
trying
Bulls
think how
games in
much I
United
remember when
Center,
I
and
was watching Knicks.
he heard the announcement from Chicago, and he dreamed of it being him, and that's why he's crying.
Okay.
I'm actually interested in the Bub Carrington pick. So Washington makes this deal with Denny Avia. Our guys in Chicago do not like it. Our numbers on the board, guys. I think this was all about the Wizards wanting Bub Carrington.
Yeah.
That trade was about them identifying Carrington as a guy they wanted. In the last week or so, I've talked to 3 or 4 teams who mentioned to me Carrington being a guy that they really liked. I think he's a riser. Where did you have him, Pelton, out of Pitt?
I think in the 20s, in
Yeah.
that range.
I love him.
Youngest player, one of the youngest players.
You said
in the draft.
before the draft you liked him.
I love him. I love Bub Carrington, everything he brings to the table. I mean, at 6'5" as a point guard, his playmaking, his scoring ability, can really shoot it off the bounce, shot it at an efficient clip off the bounce. I mean, he has everything. The only thing that I will say that he needs to work on is getting to the rim and being able to finish, right? He doesn't really have that blow-by speed to get by you, but everything else I feel like you can teach. He's, like you said, one of the youngest players in the draft. So just knowing that alone, I mean, that kid right there is a guy that we can be looking at in about 5 or 6 years and being like, man, he has had an amazing career. He has done a lot in his time.
When you evaluate the Wizards tonight, they traded Denny Avia for Bub Carrington and a future first-round pick that's coming, I think, in 29. I think.
Yeah, and 2 second-round picks. I mean, I think it was probably more even about.
Sounds like Portland's. We'll see what Portland's grade is going to be on that trade from Pelton a little while later. It doesn't sound like he's too excited about that. So we'll see.
All right, Miami Heat, they're picking where at this one? Number 15 overall, and a lot of tears. I mean, this is what you expect, though.
For sure.
On draft night, when your dreams come true. I mean, all the waterworks, they are coming. This is real waterworks. This is not the cute one. You know when you just like a cute little cry. Now these are real waterworks right here. These are ugly cries. These are ugly cries, but all happy tears. Kevin, what do you like about this pick here for the Miami Heat?
Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, I think we were thinking towards the back end of the first round, but he played kind of sparingly at Oregon his first year. He was playing behind N'Faly Dante, who could be a second-round guy or maybe a two-way this year. Went to Indiana and really played a featured role offensively, and is pretty skilled, I think, for a run-and-jump center of this type. Someone who can stretch out and shoot the 3. So I think that's what Miami is seeing, that ability to potentially even play him with Bam Adebayo down the road if he can shoot the 3 from the NBA range.
He has a lot of layers to his game. You mentioned he's skilled, great touch around the rim, can face up a little bit, can put it on the floor very sparingly. Nothing crazy, but he can step out and shoot the three. He can catch lobs as a rim threat. Defensively, he can really protect the rim because he is a great athlete, has really, really good timing, good hands, good feet, good touch, ability to step out and shoot the three. I like this pick. I think that he will be a really, really great NBA player or good NBA player because of his skill set and the things that he brings to the table, the intangibles, the 7 foot. I like this guy.
You think about the intangibles, I think about the Miami Heat, Pat Riley, and what they do down there.
Yeah.
They don't pick, I feel like, the obvious athlete when they bring them onto their roster. They want somebody that's going to fit into that Miami Heat culture. And the way you describe Khalil and what he does out there on the floor and the intangibles, Wendy, I feel like this is a good pick for the Miami Heat.
The Heat have their own way of evaluating players.
They have their own formula.
And they've had a lot of success stories over the years. This guy, you know, he's sort of the kind of this type of traits that they loved about Darrick Lively in Dallas, where he, as you saw right there, can roll to the rim. Now Lively is just beginning to touch his shooting potential. That's something that he didn't have, but protecting the rim, being a lob threat, coming off pick and rolls. The Miami Heat have had some really good draft nights in their tenure, even though they haven't drafted high that often.
Yeah.
I think this will be a good one.
Yeah.
My only concern is the fact that there was times we saw this season in Indiana where he just wasn't engaged. He wasn't locked in during the course of the game. If he wasn't touching the basketball like he should have, he wasn't getting the amount of shots that he wanted, he was not fully engaged. And I think the Miami Heat culture will break that, and I don't think that will be an issue at all. But that would be my only concern because this man has everything you need in order to be a successful big in today's game.
And what do you like about this pick and him going to the Miami Heat? Because I do feel like the Miami Heat, they're really good at player development. So whatever you kind of lacked at the collegiate level, they're able to work on that and make you a better player. It might not be this upcoming season or the season after, but you start to build those type of winning habits when you're in that organization.
So I think, Lively obviously blew past any of our expectations, starting at the beginning of the year and playing as much as he did in the playoffs. I think like what the Mavericks sort of envisioned going into this year, Ware could maybe come off the bench and give them some minutes in the spot that Thomas Bryant played last year. It's been kind of a difficult spot for them to fill, this backup spot behind Bam Adebayo. And then I think long-term what I like about it is if you're saying why isn't he going as high as a Darrick Lively II, it's because he's not the same kind of rim protector.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little less important if you got Bam Adebayo next year.
100%.
Right.
Especially
because they also just extended Bam Adebayo as well. That happened earlier in the day. Go ahead, Wendy.
Dalton Connect from Tennessee, regarded as a top 10 in a lot of mocks. Where did you have him in your projection?
He was 35 in the projection.
Okay, so Pelton's feeling pretty good right now. He is
Not feeling good.
well. Sorry, you're feeling accurate.
Feeling right.
This is a guy who right now is sort of the slider in the green room. 23 years old. Is he 23?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sort of a graduate transfer to UT this year. Are you surprised about this? He's sort of the guy that's come down the board a lot here.
Yeah, I'm extremely surprised just because I think that every single level that this young man has been at, he has succeeded. 8 30-point games last year. If it was not for Zach Edey being one of the most dominant forces of all time in college basketball, we're talking about Dalton Connect as National Player of the Year, and it's not even close for that third spot. So Dalton Connect is a guy who has proven himself on the road at Auburn, in the SEC, against Alabama, a Final Four opponent, top 25 matchups. He has risen to the occasion. 37 in the Final Four and the Elite Eight against Purdue when they lost. I don't understand how you pass up on a guy like Dalton Connect. Because the one area that I think that you do need is shooting. Anybody can value shooting, but he's more than just a shooter. He can make plays off of the bounce. He's good in pick and roll. He's a freak athletically. We saw him make some highlight plays that a lot of guys that have been taken so far can't make. I think whoever gets him is going to be extremely happy, and he's going to have a really, really, really good NBA career. And it's sad that he slid this far, but whoever gets him now is going to be extremely happy.
He had 6 35-point games
Yes.
last season. What's his upside, Kevin, just in this draft, even though he's kind of sliding right now?
Yeah, I think that's really the question here. And it's interesting that we haven't necessarily seen, it just be younger players going how to connect. Devin Carter, he is a little bit younger as a 3-year guy out of Providence, but Sacramento was drafting for someone to come in and help them right away and chose Carter over him. And I think a lot of that is defensive. The question marks about him there. You mentioned his athleticism. It didn't really translate into a lot of steals or blocks, not a lot of assists. And I think those are the concerns, kind of those athletic markers for NBA teams, particularly their analytics models.
Here's what some scouts told me about Dalton Connect. They said if you took the two Bogdanoviches and put them together, Bogdan and Bojan.
I was thinking that, Bogdan.
They sort of together, but he's still on the board. We'll see here. Philly in this spot. They're about to make their pick here. Philly's got $50 million in cap space. I don't know who's going to be on Philly's team in a week, so it's hard to know how this guy's going to fit. But whoever this is, but
do you think everything's going to blow up in Philly in the next week?
No, it's just that they've cleared their cap, they've cleared their books. So they're going big game hunting because they've got $15 million and 55-0 in cap space, and so it's very hard to project how this player might fit in. My guess is we're talking about probably a backup here at this point. But
do you think this pick might be on the move? Because
that's what I was thinking. I mean, if they can't fit in at this point, then what do you do with that
pick? It increases your cap space, and it maybe gives you more tradable pieces down the road.
Sure, and there's a couple of guys who have maybe slid. Maybe there's somebody who likes this. I mean, I was talking to a GM earlier this week, and he was telling me that picks behind the lottery that they get traded might not draw future firsts. That there's lower value in these picks. Maybe not here at 16, but the picks. That in the past, if you would trade it out and you would have gotten a future first, that you may just get future seconds because teams picking these level players below the lottery here may not want to have the money on their books for 2 years, and that may be the case for Philly here, but we'll see.
We're seeing Jared McCain is another guy who's fallen.
Right.
It's looking like it might be Jared McCain.
I know. That's what I'm
when the
thinking
camera goes on you, usually
they know. I'm thinking. I'm like, okay, he's getting ready. The smile is there. It's not like he's looking sad. So, I mean, I'm just all my context clues coming together. That's it.
I mentioned Houston often tends to draft pretty similarly to my projections. Well, Philadelphia, obviously, with Daryl Morey, same sort of thing. And McCain was someone who came out very well in my projections.
Yeah.
All right, well, it looks like the pick is in. Just waiting seconds before. There you go, Jared McCain going to the Sixers. That pick is in, going to the Sixers at 16th overall. What do you like about that, Wendy?
I'm gonna yield to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, when you look at a guy like Jared McCain, the number one skill that he brings to the table is floor spacing. He shot over 40%, 41 to be exact, from the three-point line. I think they said it on the pod earlier, and I fully agree. He is a much better playmaker than we saw at Duke. I mean, a guy like Jeremy Roach, who is going to go play for the Baylor Bears next year, going to be an absolutely exceptional.
But
I just put that in there real quick. But when you're playing with a guy who demands the ball the way that Roach demanded it, and is that lead guard and has played in that role for so long, as coming as a freshman, you have to kind of take that second role, that off-ball guard role, and that's what he did. He excelled in that role. He has a good frame. He's a little bit undersized at 6'2", but has a really strong frame that shows that he is willing to defend. He has dove on loose balls, tried to get the 50-50 ones. He can chest up. He's very physical. He gives effort on the defensive side.
Skipping the dress shirt, which you like. You get points for
Oh, no. Hold on. This is the hardest fit of the draft.
Well, let me tell you something, because this is what I noticed.
Of the draft. The crop jacket.
Well, I didn't even notice that it was cropped. I was going to say that nobody's wearing shirts under their jackets.
Oh, I love it.
Everybody is just going for no shirt.
Look at the length on the jacket.
Oh my gosh!
Look
the brooch as well.
That's a spring jacket.
It's a spring jacket. I mean, I guess it kind of works. It's what, June? So it's warm outside.
So scouts have compared him to Seth Curry tonight, who
That's
also
fair, yeah.
played at Duke. He actually, I think, has compared himself to Seth Curry. This guy's character rates very highly. I had a scout tell me he's a grade A human being.
Yeah.
That's a nice thing to have on your draft board. I'd like to be but he can shoot off the catch. He's got a very big social media following.
Big TikTok.
He's a TikToker.
Big TikTok guy.
Look, he's one
wasn't he actually? I think he was making a TikTok like on the carpet or like in the green room. I wouldn't be surprised if he was, because he is big on TikTok.
I think that this young man might make more money off the floor than he will on the floor. I mean, you saw the deal he got with the nail polish company. Which
I'm a little jealous. I'm
What
not gonna
college
lie.
basketball player
hello.
do you know? Right?
So you're jealous of Devin Carter's hair?
I'm a
and
little,
his-
yes. I'm just saying. I want a nail polish deal. I mean, come on, I got blue nails on right now. Like,
But that's what I'm saying. But what college player do you know is bold enough to just go rock some fingernail polish? You're Duke versus North Carolina. They're one of the biggest rivalries in the game. You hit a big three, and now you going up, putting your hand up to the crowd, and your fingernail polish is white. what dude you know is doing that other than this man? This young
Someone
man
who's very secure.
He's so secure in himself. And he's shaking his hips on TikTok. Wendy, I don't even know if you have TikTok.
No,
You got
no,
TikTok?
thank you for asking.
we gotta get Wendy a TikTok. We gotta get you a TikTok so we can do some TikToks on set and stuff like that.
This man is a TikTok genius. I think marketing-wise, I mean, he's going to be a
Daryl
good
Morey
player.
loves that.
Really?
Loves TikTok geniuses. It's way high on his list.
Not way high on his list. I thought it was interesting that Wendy mentioned earlier, Kevin, that we don't know what's going to happen with this Sixers team. Free agency is going to be coming up in a few as well. How do you think Jared McCain, if he is going to stay in Philly, but how does he fit in with that team and what they've got going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think to a degree it frees you up to just take the best player available. And I think that McCain was probably the top guy that they had on their board at this point. I think the one interesting question is, you mentioned, King, that he's strong for his size, and that helps him a little bit defensively, and I think that is really important in a lot of switching defenses. But you're talking about him at 6'2", Tyrese Maxey at 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah, it's a small
How much
backcourt.
can you play those two guys together is going to be an interesting question.
Yeah. Wendy, how do you see this kind of shaping up? Because I feel like there's a lot of moving pieces when you talk about Philadelphia because they've been trusting the process for a very long time and they have not been able to get over that hump.
Well,
How does this fit into the equation?
It's been a tough 24 hours for Philly with Mikal Bridges going to the Knicks and OG Anunoby staying there. So they're going to have to find a way to piece together a roster. Daryl Morey has thought about this and worked out a lot of different options, so we'll see. But I think the Lakers pick, Amina, is interesting here, obviously.
Oh, very.
I don't think we're going to hear Bronny James' name, as some people thought for a while. I do think this is an important pick. Rob Pelinka basically came out the other day. I think almost the most important thing that was said at J.J. Redick's press conference, he made it clear that he doesn't want to trade these draft picks. There was a time earlier this year where he was saying, we're going to not do anything at the trade deadline, and we're going to hold and try to trade these picks. There was a time where people thought that this pick would potentially get traded. Rob Pelinka has changed his stance. He now says that their organization needs to draft and develop, and that's part of what J.J. Redick is going to do. And this is a pick that J.J. Redick's going to have input in. And obviously the Lakers have been doing their work first, but they want to take a player here that they think that they can hold on to. I don't think the Lakers want to be in the pick trading business right now as much as LeBron might want to see that. So I think this pick could be proven wrong, but I think this pick is going to remain a Laker.
What do you think about this pick?
I hope it is Dalton Connect.
Oh.
I hope it is Dalton Connect because, listen, you put him with LeBron James and Anthony Davis.
Is that the missing piece to help him?
I don't know if it's the missing piece. I'm not going to go that far. But I do think, right, that he can place. He's not as great as far as one-on-one creation as Austin Reeves, but as far as floor spacing, as far as being a guy who can go get you a bucket, who you can go run off a down screen and go get a little bit of creation, a very efficient level of creation instead of the flash that we see with Austin Reeves, I think Dalton Connect can play on this Lakers team alongside LeBron because he's such a great playmaker.
Yeah, that pick is coming in right now. Kevin, how do you think Dalton Connect could, fit in with this Lakers squad? I know that all the talk has been about Bronny, but what do they need here? What kind of player do you think is slot here? Oh, there we go. Dalton Connect. How do you think Dalton Connect would fit in with this Lakers team?
So I do think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, number one, if you're going to play alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you got to be able to shoot the ball. If you're
I
on the
agree,
perimeter.
absolutely true.
That's number one. And number two, you got to be able to defend your position. I think that's what's going to be the make or break skill for Connect and how much he's going to be able to play next season. But last year, I think the Lakers felt a little burned. They went with Jalen Hood-Schifino, one of the younger players, a little older for a freshman. They went for a one-and-done guy. And immediately after them, we're taking Jaime Jaquez Jr. was, I think, the following pick.
Yeah.
Brandon Pajemski was right in there. There's one other contributor, Cam Whitmore, I think, was in there too.
Yeah.
And Hood-Schifino barely played last year.
Well, he
Those guys
hurt his
were on
back.
the all-rookie team.
He hurt his back, too.
But wasn't playing a whole lot before that injury.
He's also, go ahead.
Yeah, they go for someone much more capable of helping right away and Connect here.
Yeah, you talk about helping right away. He's a fifth-year player at Tennessee. How does that help him, King, going into the NBA, having all that collegiate experience?
The experience, he's mature. And when you watch his game, it screams maturity. right? I mean, you look at his shot selection. He's not a guy that tries to force a lot. He runs off of down screens. He can come off, get his feet set, square up, good-looking shot. I mean, I think that this is a mature basketball player that would fit great alongside of a guy like LeBron. I love it. If I'm Dalton Connect, yes, I'm a little upset that I didn't go top 10. But how much better
Has he been to Los Angeles? I mean,
now
is not a time to be upset.
Yeah.
Now it's time to celebrate.
How much worse can you be? You're at a spot where you're in LA, you're playing along one of the best players, if not the greatest player of all time, and you have a potential. You know what else? Another factor we're forgetting? He's playing for J.J. Redick.
I was about to bring it up.
That too.
He's playing for J.J. Redick, a guy who is very similar, not as athletic, but a very similar shooter. You can't be in a better spot if you're Dalton Connect right now.
Look, he came into the SEC out of Northern Colorado, and he led the SEC in scoring.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not something you see every day. That's talent right there. You lead the SEC in scoring, you can play. And so you can score. The Lakers are obviously pretty excited about it. I think they should be excited. We'll see what happens, but I can see why the Lakers are pretty excited they were able to get this guy at this spot.
Wendy, do you think this is something that surprised you in terms of like Dalton Connect going to the Lakers? Where did you see them originally going with that number 17 pick?
Yeah, the people who I talked to, I'm certainly not going to pretend that I know, they thought Dalton Connect would be a lottery pick. So the Lakers, and by the way, like Rob Pelinka, and he has defended himself in this regard. Rob Pelinka has done a good job drafting during his tenure as the Lakers coach. He is, he's not hit on every pick, but he has pulled some strong picks, which is not surprising because Rob Pelinka, when he was an agent, had to go find players that he thought were very talented and sort of recruit them. And so it wasn't really a surprise to me that he excelled kind of doing the same thing as he did as an agent. Yeah. So this is he did get dinged. He took it on the chin with the Hood Schifino pick. This is an opportunity that they had a player fall to them that they're probably very excited about. I would not be surprised if when Rob Pelinka speaks to the media later, and if J.J. Redick speaks to the media, that we see them very, very effusive and one of the more excited teams tonight.
All right. Well, the Orlando Magic, they're on the clock right now. Actually, that pick is coming in, and we'll get that in a couple of seconds. But, Kevin, where do you think maybe Orlando's going with this pick? Because I know you've got your mock draft and things like that. Where do you think at this point in the draft, who would we be seeing getting taken off the board?
I mean, I think if you're Orlando, you got to be looking at shooting. We know that they've got a number of tremendous young players. This is not someone who comes in and has to be a star for them. They've got Paolo Banchero. They've got Franz Wagner. We saw Jalen Suggs' development last year. But the common trait between those three guys is probably shooting is one of their weakest abilities. So they got to come get someone who can shoot the ball.
Who would you think, King, might fall to the Orlando Magic if they're looking for shooting with this Magic team? It's still a very young Magic team, but also a very scrappy young team down there in Orlando. Who would you say maybe is a good fit at this point in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a lot of options right here. I think you have a guy from Kansas, Johnny Furphy. I think that one guy who Kevin's not very high on, but Tristan Da Silva. I mean, he still shot over 40 from the three, has good length. You can even look at my Baylor guy, Jacoby Walter. I mean, I think that he didn't shoot it great last year. Big 12 play, it dropped significantly. But I think his mechanics are there. I think he has potential. And as of right now, that's what he's labeled as, a shooter. So you can go either one of those three options to help you in that area where you lack at.
Yeah, well, the Orlando Magic, they definitely need some shooting down there. The pick is in, and Tristan Da Silva, there you go. That pick is there. What's the upside, Kevin, for Da Silva with this Orlando Magic team?
As King said, I'm not
that you're not, I know.
Silva, but
I just want to hear you go back and forth. That's it.
I agree with Kevin for the record.
Skilled big man is I think the appeal here, and someone that they can maybe even play with Paolo Banchero together in the front court and can give him and Franz Wagner some space to operate. I think the question mark is he going to be able to make a lot of impact plays defensively? He had a lower block rate this year than Reed Sheppard. Think about that. And now that's another case where, look, Orlando is good defensively as they were a top 5 defensive team last year. Maybe you can compensate for that a little bit. And individually, I don't think he's bad. It's more just kind of that help defense and making plays.
I agree 1,000%. So you see, me and Kevin agree on this one.
See,
we agree on this one. He is very skilled. I'm not loving the suit, but it's okay though. I think that he is very, very skilled on the offensive side of things. But when you watch him play, he doesn't move at a fast pace. He's very, very, very slow. His feet are slow. I question his lateral quickness. Will he be able to guard wings in the NBA? I'm not sure on that. My biggest concern, he shot 40 from the 3, 50 from the field. I mean, he averaged 16 points per game and shot 84% from the free throw line. He can shoot the basketball.
Yeah.
He can help in that area, but defensively, are you going to be a liability? That will be the biggest question mark and the biggest concern that I have for De Silva.
One thing that continues to come up is pace with a lot of these players, that they're not moving fast enough. That, at least like when I talk to guys that played in the NBA, they always talk about moving those puppies. And it sounds like a lot of puppies aren't moving in this draft class. That's at least what it sounds like me listening to you guys. But, I mean, how do you think, Kevin, that's something of a characteristic of this draft class, like something that we're seeing that's kind of lacking a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just generally it speaks to, there's a reason that people were knocking this draft class as much as they were for a long period of time, because of the fact that you don't have some of those traits, athletically, or that the guys who have those traits athletically didn't have the shooting and the production to go with them. And that combination is what makes it a lot easier than when you have to choose between those two.
Yeah, I mean, I like him. I don't love him. But if he can turn into something defensively, I think he has a chance with his skill set offensively, also being an underrated passer. I think that if he can figure it out, he can learn how to move those puppies.
Those puppies.
If he can move them a little bit, then I think that he can turn into a good role player on this Magic team.
I think they're probably looking for the best shooter they could get here, in all honesty. They've got $50 million in cap space, and one of the things that they're looking to do is add shooting in the next week or so. They're in the market for 2 guards. There's a bit of I've been calling it the 2-guard carousel out there, with Paul George potentially being around, Klay Thompson potentially being available. Malik Monk is off the board, but DeMar DeRozan is potentially out there. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is expected to opt out of his contract with the Nuggets. I think the Magic are going to try to get one of those guys, more of a veteran premium player, but I can see why their goal coming into tonight was whoever is available, get the best shooting guy we can and see and sort of figure it out later, because we're getting into the part of the draft where I'm not sure these guys are going to be able to make instantaneous impacts. I'm sure some of them will, but I don't think there's a lot of instantaneous excitement unless you guys think I'm wrong.
I mean, that's interesting because you look at it last year, this was the range that we just talked about, produced hockey.
You're right.
Produced
You're right.
Skate.
You're right.
So.
I think there's a few. There might be a few on this board that's left that can come in immediately and play. But for the most part, I agree with you. I don't know if there's many that can.
So the Raptors are on the clock now. This is the pick that the Raptors got for Pascal Siakam, one of the pieces they got for Pascal Siakam from the Pacers. And the Raptors will be on the clock right now.
You talk about the Raptors, Wendy. I actually want to go back to the Orlando Magic because I feel like they're trying to build up this team, but I feel like they're still a little bit of a ways away. Like they've shown some glimpses of where they can, go toe to toe with some good teams. I think back to when they played the Celtics. Like when they played the Celtics, they were always, giving them 110%. They gave the Celtics a lot of trouble during the regular season. But what is the Orlando Magic trying to build down there? How far away are they?
They had a I don't know if I would say it was a great 7-game series with the Cavs. It was a 7-game series with the Cavs, but they got into the playoffs, got their young guys some experience all the way down to Game 7. Paolo Banchero had really a step forward season. He's definitely their franchise player. Franz Wagner, who is extension eligible this summer, he didn't have the greatest third year. We were sort of expecting him to take a big jump, especially after he had a great summer last summer with Team Germany winning the World Cup. They need Franz Wagner to step forward and sort of resume his strong ascent. But really, this is a team that could use using cap space to get offense on the perimeter. They just can't get scoring out of their backcourt. Pretty much every game they come out there, they're outscored by the other team's backcourt. It's hard to win at a high level like that. So I'm not sure that this pick is going to make any significant difference in that in the short term. But they need to emerge from this transaction cycle with more perimeter outside scoring to give their big guys who score on the interior a little bit more support. They need some more offense. They are a good defensive team for Jamal Mosley.
All right, well, the Raptors pick is in. Let's head back out to Chicago to the Numbers on the Board podcast and see what you guys think about that pick that's coming in right now.
Yeah, we're excited to see exactly what happens. Toronto, like they mentioned, acquired this pick with the Pascal Siakam trade a little while ago. So we'll see. But as we wait, I want to ask Mike about his Lakers, man. Dalton Connect falls all the way to y'all. How do you feel about that?
I'm happy. The number one reason is just because I didn't expect him to fall all the way to 17. I figured he'd probably be at least late lottery, but I'm happy because we got a guy that can obviously stretch the floor and shoot the ball very well. He can make plays, and I think he could fit that timeline where he could help us now in terms of what he could do, but he's also young, still can fit the timeline with Jalen, Max Christie, and all that. But that's my honest question is, where does the Lakers find time to help these guys and get these guys on the floor when every night they want to compete with LeBron James, Anthony Davis?
I'm in that mindset where I'm trying to accept the fact that the Lakers have a new coach.
Yeah.
They have J.J. Redick, who was a shooter. Dalton Knecht is a scorer who can shoot, and I think J.J. Redick is going to like that. So I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt and believe that they'll find some way to give this guy some minutes, especially since he's going to be, quote-unquote, ready to play from day one.
Mm-hmm.
But just seeing the pass, I thought Max Christie had some potential. I thought Jalen Hood-Schifino was a guy in last year's draft that had some potential. And they still probably do and can become something, but the fact that the Lakers haven't really put them in position to, show us what they are, kind of...
That's a clean Photoshop, too.
That's very nice.
That's
very
a clean
nice.
Photoshop.
It makes me feel away because I like Dalton Knecht, and I don't want to see him being another guy that the Lakers took and just got sitting on the bench in street clothes and all of that. I want to see him actually play because I do think he can contribute, and I think he offers something that y'all need, which is shooting, like you mentioned. So I like the pick, but I'm definitely watching the Lakers closely to actually allow him to play basketball.
I hope they do.
This is one of the first times I'm giving the Lakers the benefit of the doubt. Just because it's the new culture.
Yes.
You know, we'll see exactly. But
Jacoby Walter out of Baylor.
Jacoby Walter, what a pick at 19.
I like it.
What a pick. What do you like about Jacoby, Darrick?
I mean, I like the fact that he can come in here and immediately shoot the ball next to Scotty. Like, he was one of those dudes that really shot the ball really well in college. And when you're talking about pairing Scotty next to a guy who can shoot over 40%, why not bring him in and have him playing next to my franchise guard and Scotty Barnes?
Mm-hmm. Also, you got to like that he competes on the defensive end, too.
Yep.
You know, having OG gone and he's not with the Knicks, you need somebody who can fill with that defensive presence.
Yeah,
I
he's
like
a good 6'5", solid 6'5", too.
I like the way the team is shaping up. They got IQ, they got RJ, they got Scotty, still got Jakob Poeltl, drafted Grady Dick last year. Jacoby reminds me a little bit of like a KCP, so I think you can slide him in right between all of those guys. Like Darrick said, that another guy that can knock down a shot to complement Scotty Barnes with Immanuel Quickley in that backcourt. So I definitely like the direction. This is a nice pickup at 19.
Yeah, right.
You see him right there
too.
with Baylor teammate Yves Missy, who should be drafted pretty soon in the next couple of picks, I would imagine. But yeah, this is a nice pick. This is a guy that I thought was top 6 at one point in the college year. He came out of the gate guns blazing for the Baylor Bears, and I definitely was a guy that was like, man, this dude is going top 5 without a doubt. Year kind of treaded away, and then you got the rest of the prospects, jumping up in the draft process. So he kind of fell a little bit, but this is a nice pick.
Yeah, I like it. Grady last year, obviously they extended Scotty Barnes, making him the richest player to ever get an extension with the Toronto Raptors. So congratulations to them. I'm liking the direction the Toronto Raptors are going.
Slow and steady.
Yeah, it felt like 2 years ago we didn't know exactly if they were ever going to make the decision to trade Pascal or OG. They make both of those decisions last year, and they're really going into this rebuild. And yeah, Jacoby at 19 feels like a steal.
Looking like our boy Kamari with the dreads hanging or whatever. But yeah, dynamic shooter, dynamic scorer. Like Mike said, will give you maximum effort on the defensive side of the basketball, which is always nice. That's kind of been something that the last era of the Raptors kind of solidified, that they were going to be gritty, they were going to be grimy, and they were going to defend with OG, Pascal, Fred VanVleet, and those guys. So you want to see them continue to build on that, because I think Scotty is an excellent defender. RJ Barrett at times can be, an above average defender. You bring in Jacoby and you just continue to build on that defense. And we'll see what the extension for Immanuel Quickley is going to look like. That's kind of what I've been waiting for the Raptors. I don't have any idea, what that's going to look like. We got the Cavaliers on the clock. Interested to see what type of pick they make. They've always been a team. Every year we talk about them, whether it's a draft, whether it's a trade deadline, whether it's free agency, that 3 position.
I think this is
That's what they're looking for.
I think this is Keyshawn George.
This
is who I had in our mock draft when we did it. I had them taking
I think this could be Jalen
George.
Tyson, man. I think this could be Jalen Tyson. I think Jalen Tyson will be a lot ready to play from day one. I like
I would love it if
Keyshawn.
Jalen Tyson could fall to Phoenix. I think that would be perfect for me. I think he could
Where
really
he gonna
help.
play?
I think he could really help their second unit. They don't really have much on that. They don't have anything on that bench.
I want Yves Missy to go to them or the
You want
Pelicans.
Yves Missy?
They need somebody that can help them in the front court if they talking about keeping Kevin Durant, Booker, and Beal. You know what I mean?
You just want to see the Cavs select a wing.
They just need that perfect they need that perfect bridge between that backcourt and that front court.
Yeah.
That backcourt and that front court.
I just think Keyshawn George has come in. He's that dude that don't need the ball. He can just shoot threes, and he's happy with that. Like that's his game. He want to shoot.
I think he's so young that he needs to go
He
somewhere
do need
that
to develop a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think they have so much solidified guys that he could still develop next to those guys.
It's one of the struggles of being this late in the draft because a lot of the teams coming up are trying to compete for something. So, like, if you're a developing type of dude, it's going to be a little bit rougher. You may take you a few extra years.
I think
Unless he
Washington
gets
has a
drafted
pick
to the right
approaching.
franchise.
I think Washington has a pick coming up. I think Utah has another one at 29. So there's some spots. We'll see if the Knicks keep both of their draft picks, if they move one or somebody wants to jump in. But, yeah, I think when it comes to the Cavs, the spot that they're in, what they're trying to do, just out of my personal liking of Keyshawn George, I would like to see him in a different situation for me personally. Oh, another guy that the Suns could also look at if they are not looking at Jalen Tyson or Yves Missy, Isaiah Collier. They need some backcourt help.
Yeah,
they need some backcourt help. And this is a guy that was one of the top players in his class going into college. You have him now available in the 20s.
Did you make him French?
What?
Isaiah Collier? Is that how you pronounce it? I thought it was
I've heard of
Collier.
Collier. I've heard it so
I
many
feel like
different
it's
ways.
Collier.
Yeah.
I guess
Just
we'll
like the
hear
way
what
it's
Adam
spelled.
Silver say it. You know, he got the real pronunciation.
Yeah, for sure. Please. I always say so many different ways because I don't want to be up here butchering somebody's name.
The pick is in, baby.
Who is it going to be? Cleveland
Let's see,
Cavaliers.
man.
Your money is on Collier?
Yeah, I think
I'm
so.
going to say my money's on.
No, I'm saying the way to pronounce.
I think it's Collier.
Who y'all money on for this pick?
Let's say
Keyshawn George.
Tyson.
Tyson.
I'm
I
going
got
Keyshawn
Tyson.
George. Get you a 3.
I think it's gonna
Is
be
Keyshawn
Tyson.
George a definite 3?
He's a wing.
He played some point guard for Miami last year.
I can tell you, if he ends up in Cleveland, he will not be playing
Yeah,
point
he will
guard.
not be playing point guard. He
They would not
definitely
put the ball
be
in his
playing
hands.
point
I
guard.
promise you.
Is there
He'll be told
anybody?
to go to the court.
Is there anybody else that has fallen?
Not necessarily.
No.
I thought Dalton Connect falling was the
Guys,
bigger one.
There's a reason why Darrick be glazing me as the draft expert.
You must have got it right, huh?
So I didn't get it right.
If I don't go left, I go right. Don't I? Don't I? But no, I like Jalen Tyson going to the Cavaliers. Just because, like I said, I think he's ready to play. I think he does a lot of different things. There's still some talent left in the draft, y'all. There's still some talent. Our boy Day'Ron Holmes is still available.
Oh, Day'Ron Holmes, I'm very excited.
Day'Ron
to
Holmes
work
still
with.
available.
I hope
I think he might be going to your team. One of your teams.
I'm
I'm
Yeah,
glad
might
he
be
didn't
up
land
there.
in Cleveland. That was the one area where I didn't want Day'Ron Holmes to land, just because they have that solidified front court, and it would be hard for him to get minutes. I was really hoping he fell somewhere else. I think Phoenix is also another home for him, where he can go there and do his thing. He could be Nurkic's backup. Perfect for him.
It's a couple teams towards the end of the 20s that could use some center help for sure.
Yeah.
Johnny Furphy is still out there, a young guy. Our boy Ryan Dunn, Mike, is still out there.
You know what team could use some defense?
What team?
I'm just any team. All teams could use defense.
Did he leave it open?
I thought he was setting himself up
Yeah, I
for a
thought
specific
same.
team.
You know,
He's saying all 30 of them.
hey,
And that's another team with the 2 picks. I think the Knicks could be
I was about
looking
to
at
say,
Ryan Dunn. Just add up on the
hey,
defense.
after we got
Add up on the defense.
after we got Mikal last night, I did the mock this morning, and I had us taking Day'Ron Holmes, and I had us taking Ryan Dunn because I said
They just
that's
fit-
a load up.
Hey, we not even
Day'Ron
there yet,
Holmes
but if
fit-
they go, they just fit so perfectly to the Knicks culture in terms of just hustle. It's like,
Yes.
I don't even know what you
Thibodeau
do.
would love Day'Ron Holmes.
Yeah, no, like, and Ryan Dunn.
Yeah.
You would have Thibodeau in heaven, really.
Yes.
He would have guys that he can play for 40 minutes, that want to defend, that want to be gritty and get things down dirty. So I definitely cannot wait till we get to my Knicks picking. So we got the Cavaliers here, then we'll have the Pelicans, then we'll have the Suns, and then we'll have back-to-back Knicks picks. And so we got some guys coming off the board here as we shake up.
Okay, finally. The
Here
pick
it
is
is.
officially in. We've known 6 minutes, but here's the pick. It's officially in. And it will be Jalen Tyson, who's a guy we also interviewed at that combine.
Hey, Greg vibes.
Yes.
I'm about to DM him right now and tell him congratulations because he was so cool, man.
And he was so humble.
So humble.
On the way, me and KB, one of
It was me and you.
Me
We
and
waiting
P
for
was,
our-
yeah, we
yeah.
was waiting, and he was still in the lobby, and he came up to us like, "Hey, man, y'all have a great day." Like he dapped us up and everything. And I was like, that's very humble of him to still acknowledge us even after the interview.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts about our interview is that he talked about this whole thing as like his job now.
Yes.
And how much time he's really putting in. And of course, all these guys are putting in an immense amount of time to even get to this point. But he was like, this is different for my family. First one to do this in my family. First one to college. First one to be a millionaire by getting drafted tonight. So congratulations to him. And he's going to be a guy that's going to work. And that's Cleveland's identity as a city and as a team.
He asked me to send him a playlist of Larry June. I was waiting till he got drafted. So after this show, I'm going to send him that playlist of that Larry June. And yeah,
You
man.
gonna sing the jersey back?
Oh, yeah.
The signed jersey.
If it's one, I don't want to say one, but if I had a top 5 of guys in this draft who was going to send me my jersey, it would be him, Ryan Dunn, Modest Buzelis, Rob Dillingham, and who else? And Deron Holmes.
You know, one of the most underrated parts about the draft is, for me at least, is seeing the war rooms and the reaction to the whatever pick.
You've seen every war room celebrate except for the Bulls.
The Bulls
was just calm. It was like no reaction. It was like so.
You know what's so?
dry.
You know,
getting up, they handshaking.
you know what's so
high-fiving.
unfair? That pick was in for so long. They could have did the whole Dougie Fresh. They could have been moonwalking, and we just didn't see that. We could have seen that right after they did the electric slide in celebration of the draft pick.
They could have been in that Dougie for all we know.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we just got the part of them where they was just kind of like, hey, we did it.
No,
So
it fits our narrative about the Bulls front office, so I'm here for it.
That was intentional. But I can't.
They know what they're doing, baby. We love it. We love it.
you know, I got a gripe to pick with this draft, man.
What's up?
I got a gripe.
Is it the trades? The lack of trades that we get? We got a few, but like it ain't as much.
It's the lack of
movement.
trades. It's the lack of trades.
I don't know if we're going to get many now.
Yeah, we're
Into the
it's done.
20s.
It's
Yeah.
done. It's done. If we get trades now, it's going to be somebody trading down to get out of the first because
Yep.
they've already had 2 picks or somebody
I'm a
moving
second
it.
apron team. I can't afford another contract. It's
Yeah.
a bunch of different stuff. But
It just got confirmed that Kenny Atkinson's deal with the Cavaliers is a 5-year deal.
okay.
Wow.
Impressive.
So
How much? Did it say how much? The value of it?
let me see. You all.
I would
forgot.
assume he's $100 million man.
I don't know
think
if he's
so?
$100 million man.
Wow.
Was
They've
it
been
80?
paying the coaches lately.
Yeah, the coach has been getting paid.
I only got a report
Shout
to
out
say.
to Monty.
I only got a report to say 5-year. Don't say the bag. I know you you're a pocket
I'm
watcher.
a bag watcher.
All right. Well, the
Eve's
Pelicans are on the clock now. We're going to send it back to Bristol
Is this his home?
to figure out exactly what happens.
All right, thanks so much, guys. We do got to get some more front office cameras and some more reactions. I mean, I've just seen some handshakes, a little bit of laughs here and there.
Yeah, but you know what? The NFL does a good job where they will record the actual negotiations
Yes.
that go on. They don't. They release it like months later, but that's amazing. That would be great for the NBA if they would actually, you know.
We're still hoping for the Grizzlies Hornets trade talks.
I know. We're gonna find out some about that, but those NBA ones the NFL ones are amazing. It's a little bit different because there's a lot more action and a lot more like trading 3 picks for 2
That's
and
true.
whatnot.
That's true.
But yeah, it has actually been a pretty quiet night on the trade front. You know, I think part of the issue is obviously certain teams may like certain players, but there's not a lot of. Just being honest, not a lot of excitement about these players at this part of the draft. Just being frank about it. But there will be guys, as you last year, you know, there were guys taken in this range who made impacts. There will be guys who are coming in here who make an impact next year. We just don't necessarily know who they are right now. It's just not something that, compared to previous years, has generated the same level of excitement. They're the teams that don't have picks trying to get in.
All right, well, New Orleans, their pick is in right now. Just to recap, at 19, the Raptors took Jacoby Walter. Then at 20, Cleveland, they've got Jalen Tyson. Pelicans pick is coming in right now, and it's going to be Yves Missi.
Sick 'em.
Look, I mean, how many is this?
That's two.
Two Baylor Bears
Two
in the
Baylor
last 3
guys,
picks.
2 Baylor guys, and 2 Dallas kids.
Oh, there you go.
And 2 Baylor guys sandwiching a Dallas guy. This is the King McClure section of the draft.
I got to backtrack because, you know, Jalen Tyson, I mean, we're talking to Yves, but Jalen Tyson is a guy who about 2 years ago we were working out, right? We were working out 2 years ago, and he tells me I'm going to be an NBA player. I'm going to be drafted. Not fully believed in it. I called plenty of his games when he was at Texas Tech. I saw the potential there, but he looked me in my face and told me I'm going to be an NBA guy. We were working out. And shout out to his strength coach, Coach B, out of Plano. I mean, this guy works. Like, this guy is a workhorse. He cares. He is going to be a really good pro. He has the mentality, and he cares. But let's get to Yves Missi because I think that he is going to have a good career strictly due to his versatility on the defensive side. He is an elite athlete. We saw a play in the game against Auburn where he got the steal, took one bounce, full speed, got the crazy dunk. That's when everybody jumped on the Yves Missi bandwagon, and that's when he jumped on a lot of people's radars. But his versatility, he's not a great shot blocker yet. He's a good shot blocker, but not great. His timing can be a little bit better, but he serves as a rim threat. He can switch onto guards on the defensive side of things, and he can put the ball on the floor a little bit. We saw flashes. There'll be a few times I would do a Baylor game this year. We saw flashes where he could put the ball on the floor, take 2 dribbles. He was very, very fluid in his movements at 7 foot. I think there's a lot of potential and upside with Missi.
He had 51 blocks last season, also shot 61% from the field. You talk about that versatility. Kevin, how's that versatility just an upside for him going into the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, if I were Yves Missi and I were going out and selling myself during this draft process, I would have been comping myself to Derek Lively II at every opportunity because we saw what happened with him last year, in the way that he came in and contributed. And I think the biggest thing is the ability to provide vertical spacing with the rim running out of the pick and roll. And that's something that New Orleans just has not had at center. And Jonas Valanciunas is not playing that sort of game. It's going to be interesting to see how that fits with Zion Williamson, who's someone who's often playing in the dunker spot. Maybe it's those two guys running pick and roll with each other. And then defensively, I think it does, again, Valanciunas has been largely in a drop. And we've talked tonight about, that kind of limits what you can do defensively. Missi's going to give them more options, I think, at that end of the court.
The Pelicans have been trying to address their center position in this offseason. They would not surprise me if they're active in the trade market into July, looking to add a starter quality center. I don't necessarily think that Yves Missi is going to be a starter quality player out of the gate, but the Pelicans do want to make over their center spot, and he has a chance to get some potential minutes there behind whoever they have. It seems like they've are resigned to Jonas Valanciunas moving on, but we'll see if they can't do anything better.
Let's say that Missi does stay with the Pelicans, and you talk about Zion Williamson as well, Wendy. How would that fit? I think that's something that's really intriguing when you take a look at the Pelicans and then making this pick.
Well, the big thing about the Pelicans is that they are the one of 2 teams that has never paid the luxury tax. Their ownership has never cleared it. They are on the edge of being a luxury tax team. And so the question is, are they actually going to be a luxury tax team? Because when they were healthy this last year, they were dangerous. They were getting in there and threatening to get even home court in the first round. Then design injury derailed them. The other thing is Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram is one of the big questions in the league. He is extension eligible. He's going into the last year of his contract. Typically, in a player like Brandon Ingram who's on a max contract, you either extend him. If you don't extend him, you look to trade him. And he has been someone who's been mentioned on the trade market in the last few weeks. So we'll see. The Pelicans have some big pieces. This is just one thing that they've got going on. Let's see where the Pelicans are in 2 weeks from now, and whether Brandon Ingram is still on the team and whether they've acquired their center, because I think those are 2 things they're looking pretty closely at.
And the Suns, they're on the clock right now. Their pick is actually in. They need, some versatility. They also need some defense on that Suns team as well, because if you got scorers like Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, they got swept, though, in the first round with all that scoring. I mean,
so Woj is telling us that Phoenix is traded down here.
Oh, some movement.
To Denver has moved up to number 22.
Okay.
And given the pick number 28, which Denver was their pick, and Woj tells you here, 3 second-rounders, including number 56 this year. So Denver is in need of bench help. Calvin Booth and Tim Connelly before him have drafted reasonably well. They have looked for picks in the 20s. They see value in picks in the 20s. There's obviously a player on this board. Who do we think that they're trading up for? There's somebody that they like here.
A lot of smoke out there about Dayton's Deron Holmes II. It's interesting because he was, I think early in this process, you were looking at him as a potential second-round pick, and Denver maybe, promising him where they were late in the first round. The fact that they have to jump up to number 22, it's curious, like which of these teams they thought, or whether there was maybe a trade with someone else that was going to come up and get Deron Holmes II.
Yeah, this was one of the, every year you hear about these promises that are given. You see players work out with the team and then shut it down, and there's like a promise. One of the intel coming into this draft was that Deron Holmes was headed to Denver because he shut down his workouts. And so Denver, working some intel here, must think that somebody in the 20s ahead of them was going to move up. So they pay some second-round picks. We'll see what the specifics are, the future second-round picks. But Denver is in a position where they need to get action out of these draft picks right now because they just can't add much salary. So they obviously are prioritizing a guy who they must think has some upside to play for them in the short-term future.
Yeah, he has a lot of potential, but my biggest concern with a guy like Deron Holmes is that he's only 6'8", and he played the 5 at Dayton. In what position can he play in the NBA? He shot 39 from the 3, but when you look at his jumper, he has a very slow release. So you put him at the 4. Is he really going to get that shot off consistently in the corner? I do not know. Will his the extension of his range, will that be able to translate to the NBA line? We will see, but that would be my biggest concern. But everything else, as far as athleticism, switchability, versatility on the defensive side, I think that Darrick Holmes brings that to a team. But my biggest question is, what position do you plug him at, the 4 or an undersized 5?
Yeah, Darrick Holmes, Kevin, where do you put him if you're in Denver? How does that fit? What's his upside, pros, cons? Like, how does that fit here?
Yeah, I think it's got to be the 5 for this pick to make sense and going up this high to get him, because look, that's been the trouble spot for them, is how are we going to back up and play well when Nikola Jokic is on the bench? And it's interesting because, kind of this same dilemma, is he a 4 or a 5? What's applied to Zeke Naji, who they've tried to fill that role with for several years and extended before the season, and he just fell entirely out of Michael Malone's rotation in the second half of the year, and they're hoping that Darrick Holmes can come in and be that guy.
Well, there you go. The pick is right there. Darrick Holmes. It says he's going to the Suns, but they made the trade with Denver, so Denver moved up to that number 22 pick in order to get Holmes on that roster. And I'm assuming, Wendy, that obviously this is probably not a guy that's going to be a plug-and-play on a Denver Nuggets team that was, playing for an NBA championship this last season.
Maybe not, but Calvin Booth is a very strong executive, and we'll see what he thinks here. I actually think the other side of the trade for Phoenix, I want to talk about that real quick. They have such a dearth of any draft capital whatsoever. They have traded away so much that even getting these couple of second-round picks just to have draft assets that they can use is valuable to them. So there may not be an appreciable difference between the level of player you can get at 22 and 28 in this draft. And that seems to be what they're basically saying. And they can pick up some second-round picks. Like, they honestly need anything that they can get in terms of draft capital. That's how much they've exhausted their draft supply. So this is obviously a story about the Nuggets trading up to get a guy like this who they think can be a part of the rotation in the short term. But I actually think it's maybe some good business from Phoenix and an indication of how badly they needed draft capital.
There's also two interesting financial elements for the Suns here. Not only do you have a smaller rookie contract going back from 22 to 28, if they draft someone at 56 that they keep on their roster, they can pay him less than the veteran minimum. So these are two ways for them to shave their luxury tax bill. And then the other financial element that speaks to what you're talking about, their dearth of flexibility. Back in the day, you could just go in and buy picks. The new CBA has taken that tool off the table for teams in the second apron like Phoenix. They cannot send out cash in trades.
What's happening though? What's happening though, Wendy, in Phoenix? Because I feel like something could be on the horizon. And I mean, we talked about it earlier in the show, talking about Kevin Durant, the things going on with Houston and things like that. I look at the Phoenix Suns and I say, they have a lot of scoring, but it's not really translating into wins. And I feel like there's some moving pieces behind the scenes here.
Well, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant they got to play like 40 games together last year.
Right.
They just didn't really get a good sense of where they are. Now, these guys have injury histories. All of these guys over the last few years have been missing games, so maybe it's not a surprise that they haven't played that many games. I actually think the Suns had a good day today, and here's why. Because the Rockets make this deal last night with the Nets and very clearly saber-rattle that they're going to come after Kevin Durant. And there had been some rumors over the last 7 to 10 days that this is something the Rockets were wanting to do. This has been going sort of underneath. Jonathan Givony sort of dipped it out in his mock draft a few days ago. That was the first time I saw it actually public. What ends up happening is Matt Ishbia comes out very strongly, their owner, and says, we're not trading Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's agent, Rich Kleiman, comes out and backs that up. So there had been this rumbling about how does Kevin Durant feel. And this action by the Rockets forced this to the surface, and at least for the time being, has everybody redoing their vows to each other. Now, we'll see if that's still the same feeling in 6 months. But I actually think this, even though it might have been irritating to the Suns today, and it may have caused their fans a little bit of extra stress, I don't think this was the worst idea because, if this was some sort of trial balloon or some sort of salvo, I think the Suns have pushed it back, at least for now.
Yeah, I'm just curious to know what the Suns are going to do because honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I just don't think all that scoring is going to work.
I don't see it working
I'm not going to
either.
lie. When they first made the, I didn't like it. I don't like it. I still don't like it. I feel like you got to have defense. I know it's like sexy for the scoring and everything like that. But then just as you mentioned, Wendy, all three of those players, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and also Bradley Beal, have not been healthy.
You know what I mean?
You can't win a championship playing 40 games, 42 games together on the court.
I'm not disputing you. but I'm going to say that they kind of got caught because when they did the Durant trade, they didn't know that all the rules were about to change on them. Now, so that is unfortunate timing. After they found out what the new rules were, they still went and did the Bradley Beal trade. So it sort of removed some of the sympathy for them for having the rules change on them. But what you're watching here in the league is teams are moving away from the idea of having 3 max players.
Oh, yeah.
So the Suns are definitely going the road less traveled right now. So they are sort of fighting against the tide in the league. We'll see if they can overcome it. What is required in the West to win at a high level, to be a top 6 team, is so high right now and only getting higher. I think we're going to see over this next 7 to 10 days. The Suns' pathway to getting there is going to be hard. And that's essentially what the Rockets are saying. The Rockets are saying, okay, maybe you're not saying that you're going to trade Kevin Durant to us today, but we think at some point in the future we're betting that this is not going to work like you're saying.
Yep.
It sounds like you and the Rockets are on the same wavelength.
I mean, I might know a little something. I'm just kidding.
And you wearing red.
Like, I'm just saying, I might know a little something. The Bucks, they're on the clock right now, just about a minute and a half until their pick is in. We've got best available players coming up on the screen right there. Kevin, what's your best available for the Bucks based off of what you're seeing and how the draft is panning out?
Yeah, I think Keyshawn George is someone who could make sense for them. I mean, my number one thing for Milwaukee is we got to get some athleticism, we got to get some youth, and we got to get more defense on the perimeter, because those are the 3 things that were lacking last year. They were trying to make Malik Beasley their defensive stopper, and then brought in Patrick Beverley to do that after the trade deadline. These are not, good choices. I was hoping Marjon Beauchamp, who they drafted a couple of years ago, could be that guy, and Andre Jackson Jr. had some flashes. But they got take another swing to me at that wing position. And, Keyshawn George, maybe it's not next year, but I think there's a chance he could be that guy.
Also, the Bucks just don't have that many picks. They've traded away a lot of their future assets to build up this roster. When they get a chance to pick, they got to try to hit on it.
Yeah, I also like Johnny Furphy.
Okay.
I love Johnny Furphy, and I think that he's not a great defender, but I think we saw moments at Kansas where, first off, he wasn't even supposed to be as good as he was. He wasn't supposed to play that role. They were really banking on Marco Jackson being that guy at the 2 spot for Kansas, but he fit into that role, and not only was he a shooter, because he didn't really even shoot it great. I wouldn't even classify him as a shooter. He did the dirty work for Bill Self. He was the one crashing the offensive glass. He's getting stops on defense. He was playing hard. I think that he could add a lot to a team outside of just shooting the basketball. So I wouldn't be surprised you put him with a Giannis, and he has great size. At 6'8", can shoot the ball, can defend, really good athlete. I mean, I think that he could fit on his Bucks team really well.
Yeah, Bucks finished 3rd in the East. Wendy, what do you think they're looking for here? Obviously, defense is something that they've been concerned about.
Well, they still believed in them that they could make a run in the East last year until the Giannis injury derailed them. So they need to reformat their defense. And Malik Beasley looks like he's going to leave Milwaukee. They need a replacement for him. And I don't know if they're going to get it at this pick, but.
Oh, wow.
All right, there
Coming
we go.
from out of the green room. Whoa. He ain't in the green room. He's in the stands. He's in the stands.
A man of the people, okay?
Wow.
He's in the stands. But look at the crew that he
A.J.
has.
Johnson.
Look at the crew that he has with him.
Wow.
He's like literally in the stands.
Listen.
He's just
he knew he needed to be in that building. He came in that building because he knew he was going to get picked. That's a power positive thinking.
You know what? That's a smart move though, right there, because you don't want to be like too much in the spotlight, just in case things.
And they had a staircase. Look, they had a staircase for him. They knew that it could happen. They sat him in the spot. He was in the bullpen.
He was like, "Let me just chill in the cut." He's like, "I don't need to be in the spotlight. Let me have my moment if it comes." And it worked out for him. A.J. Johnson going to the Bucks. Kevin, what do you like about this pick?
This one surprises me. I mean, he was 37 on Gavoni and Wu's mock draft coming in today. Was someone who struggled, I think, in the Australian NBL after he went there, rather than where was he committed? Texas.
Texas.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's from Texas. Yeah.
So this does not strike me as someone who's going to help the 2024-25 Milwaukee Bucks. They're definitely gambling on down the road.
I would agree with that. I don't think that he is going to help immediately, but I do think that he has enough talent to where he can help in the long run. He has so much talent. And when you watch him play the game, it almost looks natural for him to be a point guard. And we didn't really see much last year in the NBL because he only averaged 8 minutes a game, averaged 3 points per game. So we didn't really see much from him. But the times that we saw him a little bit in like what we saw in high school, we saw that the talent is 100% there. This kid can get buckets. He has great feel. And at 6'4" with a 6'9" wingspan, he shows flashes on the defensive side where he can impact the game. But I love him at the point guard spot. I think that he can grow into that. I don't think it's an immediate thing, but I think his shot is fluid. I think that if he can learn how to really become a better playmaker, the scoring intangibles are already there. I mean, he was in an open run with Jalen Green and a few other guys about 2-3 years ago, and he was probably arguably one of the best players there. So this kid has a lot of upside, but I don't think it's going to be immediate, like you said.
The Knicks have traded another first-round pick.
Oh my gosh. What's happening
The
here?
Knicks are moving out of the 24th pick. Washington is acquiring another pick tonight, and that is what Woj is telling us.
Okay.
You want to say
And,
who they're targeting?
Targeting Keyshawn George.
I like it.
Okay. So the Knicks are moving out of that pick.
The Wizards like this draft. King. The Wizards like this draft. Other people say this draft wasn't as good. The Wizards are not on that list.
What do you think they find attractive about the draft, though? Like in terms of like what they need and what they see?
And honestly, Amina, I think they're just trying to take advantage of the situation. Their volume, they're trying to volume score. They want to draft as many prospects as they can and see how this is going to go. This is probably the longest term rebuild in the NBA right now, Washington. I would describe them, to use the great Fran Fraschiller's line, as being 2 years away from being 2 years away. And so they are just sort of peppering the hillside, looking to try to find to find players here. They obviously did love Bub Carrington. I think that was a guy that they targeted and got. This is a guy who, did you have him in your top 10, or did Givoni had him in his top 10?
I think he was at the fringe of the top 10.
Okay, so this is just a guy that I think, Washington sees an opportunity as he slid down the board, and the Knicks had 2 first-round picks. Very unlikely with their roster that Tom Thibodeau is going to play 2 rookies in this thing, and they know that they've got this pick coming up. As long as they knew who they were giving this pick up for, and they knew that there's a player that they could get, I think that's one of the reasons why they felt comfortable trading one of these picks. And we'll see what they got. I would be surprised if they got a first. If they got a future first from Washington for this, I would think that was pretty good work. We'll see if it's a future first or it's multiple seconds.
What's interesting is I think that if you were to tell me, if I were to give you 5 guys from this year's first round that could potentially be the best long term, I think that Washington has probably hit on 3 for 3 right now if they get Keyshawn George. Because I think that Bub Carrington has that type of potential. I think that Sarr has that type of potential. And I think when you look at a guy like Keyshawn George, who numbers weren't amazing, numbers didn't pop out. But when you watch them, true hoopers, true evaluators look at this guy and they're like, wow, he has a lot of things to like. And his scoring potential, his scoring upside at 6'8" is very, very intriguing. So I think that if you were to give me 5 guys, these 3 that Washington have drafted were on my list of guys who I think could potentially be the best as far as carrying a team, actually having that quote-unquote, I'm not going to say full star potential, but the closest thing to it.
This is arbitrage. This is a Knicks arbitrage. They're getting pick number 26 and number 51 tonight.
26 and 51.
So they moved 2 spots back to pick up the 51st pick. This is my guy, Brock Aller.
He loves
doing this. This is Brock Aller is their head of strategy. Brock loves to do little teeny trades on draft night.
There was one year where they managed to make 2 separate trades, and the sum of them was they traded up in both the first round and the second round.
Yes.
That was the ultimate.
And Brock specializes in this stuff, and he's been trading away picks for the last 24 hours, so I think he just wanted to get one of his trades through here. So this is a very small arbitrage trade. They pick up the 51st pick for moving basically moving from 24 and 25 to 25 and 26.
I know we were talking.
I still don't think Tom Thibodeau's playing 2 rookies this year, though.
Yeah, I think we might see another trade for the Knicks coming.
I don't think
who knows?
that's
Brock is still working. I promise you.
You guys were talking about Keyshawn George. Kevin, what's his upside in terms of what he could bring to the Wizards if that is the pick that they end up going with?
Yeah, I think, it's a guy who can really shoot it and has a lot of length defensively. The question mark, he didn't score well athletically at the combine, so it's a little bit different. But I think there is some similarity in kind of the profile to Bilal Coulibaly, who they took in the lottery a year ago. And King said that the numbers didn't say anything about Keyshawn, but my projections did have him again in the top 10. So they were picking up the same things, particularly with his shooting. The other thing I want to say, Washington now team Francophile. They've got Sarr, they've got Coulibaly, and Keyshawn George, although he's a Swiss, went to high school in France.
Oh, wow. I mean, also,
A lot of French connections.
a lot of French connections.
A lot of
I
French
see what you did there.
connections. You see? You like that? Wendy's catching my drift. The pick is in. Just waiting for it to be official. Seeing what happens out there in Brooklyn. Wendy, do you think it's a little bit more movement than we thought later on in this first round? Because I thought it was going to be a little bit more calm than this, but we're seeing some movement with Knicks trading back one spot in the 51st.
There's been a little movement. I think Washington's had a very active night tonight. Washington, acquiring 3 picks, 2 of them tonight. And Portland, Portland and Washington are both 2 teams they're going to feel good about tonight. Portland coming out of this with Donovan, Clingan, and Denny Avdia. Feel like they improved themselves. Unfortunately, they're playing in the Western Conference and have extremely high bar to clear to truly move up in that race.
Oh, there you go, Keyshawn George going with the.
He'll be putting the Knicks hat on, but it's gonna
change.
He's gonna take the shuttle down to DC tomorrow.
Not take the shuttle.
Yasella?
No, you got to take the bus. When you're really from the Northeast, you get on the bus. You could take the train though.
They might send the jet for him.
That too. They're not gonna let him take the bus.
There's a bunch of guys who have to come down anyway. They can get a group rate.
Not even a group rate. Oh, King, what do you like about Keyshawn George and what his skills are and how that translates into the NBA?
Well, for 6'8", he's extremely skilled. And what I mean by skilled is his handle. He has a great handle on him. He can really shoot the ball. Shot 40% from 3. Even though his number, he didn't have a big sample size, he still shot 40% and was able to knock him down. Knocked some down from deep range, which was very, very impressive. The thing that I'm most concerned at, Kevin, you kind of hinted at it earlier, the lack of vertical explosion. I think he could struggle finishing in the NBA, but when you look at his touch, when you look at his ability like that to shoot from behind the arc and to really step back, I think that shows you that there's a lot of upside to scoring a basketball. He's also creative with his handle. So that right there gives me hope that he can turn into a really good scorer for NBA teams. So I like what Washington has done so far. And I like this pick right here, Keyshawn George, getting him at 25.
A lot of people have been talking about the Knicks today. I'm looking at the YouTube poll results right now. Are the Knicks an Eastern Conference favorite right now? 53% of people online are haters, and they're saying 50% are saying no. I'm saying that as an... You know what, King?
I think 53% of people watch the NBA.
They're not the favorite.
Of course they're not the favorite. I'm not going to go that far. As a New Yorker, I've seen enough in my lifetime where I would say that they are not the favorite. They are not. But, Wendy, when you look at what the Knicks are doing, the trades that they've made, how their roster is being built, how far away do you think they are from really contending in the East?
Well, they have a team that can give Boston some problems. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things. Brad Stevens said tonight that Kristaps Porzingis is not going to be ready to start the season with this surgery. This is a pretty significant foot injury that he's going to have surgery for. You don't know what health is going to be. The Knicks ran out of healthy bodies last year. They are trying to take steps to avoid that happening again. And the thing I was making a joke about what the Knicks did. The Knicks are trying to find hundreds of thousands of dollars right now to open up space to keep their team together. And what they did with this draft going from picks 24 and 25 to picks 25 and 26, they saved a few $100,000. I don't have the exact money, but that's what they're doing. They're trying to figure out a way to keep Isaiah Hartenstein. They're trying to figure out a way to round out the team because they're facing that trade has given them a hard cap. That they could only spend so much, and they obviously spent a lot of money on OG Anunoby today. And the way they negotiated that contract, they got him to take a little bit less of a guarantee, but they gave him a player option and they gave him a trade kicker. So the Knicks are working very hard in the details. They have made their big moves, but the Knicks are working hard in their details. And frankly, the Knicks have done a great job with their details over the last 4 years. So the moves that you now see the Knicks make over the next 3 to 5 days are going to be detail trades. But if they can come out on the other, or detail moves, if they can come out on the other side of it and can figure out a way to not have to lose Hartenstein or not have to lose Mitch Robinson, they will have done their work. And I promise you, they're digging in, and that's what this little trade that they just made was about. It was about creating a little bit of an advantage that they can try to turn into something bigger later on.
Yeah, Kevin, how much has to do of what the Knicks are doing right now has to do with money and the financial kind of, not problems, but things that they're up against right now with trying to build out that roster and really come into the season with a healthy roster?
Yeah, I mean, I think Brian laid it out well. There are some scenarios where New York could be hard capped at the new second apron rather than the lower first apron, and that's about an $11 million difference. So makes it a lot easier to try to potentially bring back Hartenstein or do something like that if they can structure the Bogdanovich-Bridges trade in a different way by incorporating a sign-in trade. The details on that are way too complex to get into right now. But the other element is, I think, in addition to the finances, just having tradable pieces because, there's a drive the car off the lot element when you take a player in the first round. No longer is that pick as valuable once it's a player as when it could be anything. It could even be a boat. So if they can kick this pick into the future, I think that's where they think it may have more trade value for them at this year's trade deadline or down the road.
All right, well, let's take a still look at the scene out there in Brooklyn. Just a beautiful skyline. Oh, but then we got the Lightning out there. Apparently,
the Seaport's looking great. Look at the Seaport.
I know.
They're getting ready for round 2 tomorrow night.
Yeah, they are getting ready for round 2. I will say, I did go to school right there by the Seaport. Just looks like amazing, amazing, amazing. A lot of big things happening out there in Brooklyn. But let's send it back out to Chicago to the Numbers on the Board podcast.
Yeah, that Lightning was like a paid actor. That was as perfect.
Y'all
as
saw
could
the
be.
Lightning. My eyes went to the traffic on the bridge. I ain't missing New York traffic right now. But speaking of New York, my Knicks are on the clock. We just made the deal with the Wizards. A lot of Knicks talk. I'm loving the Knicks talk right now.
It's been an eventful 24 hours, man.
Man, it has been. It's been, I don't want to say stressful, but it's.
I'm taking your phone so you can't see the pic early.
It just lit
you don't
up.
have to react like everybody else in the world.
It did just light up. That's a smart move. I appreciate you doing that so we can have a real
Who's at the top of your big board right now?
Definitely Ryan Dunn. Definitely
Okay.
Ryan Dunn. We talked about it earlier, but I mean, just getting Mikal, getting OG, why not triple down, get a young Ryan Dunn who can learn from those guys? And also, when I look at our roster, it's just like, we're one of those teams where we are legitimately stacked. I just don't see too many positions where it's like a significant need. So I'm looking at a Ryan Dunn. I'm thinking about what if the Knicks don't feel confident that they can bring Isaiah Hartenstein, and what if they look at like a Kyle Filipowski as a poor man version.
Okay.
There's Tyler Smith from the G League Ignite that I really like.
Tyler Smith.
Yeah, there's so many different options. You mentioned Tyler Kolek. We have Miles McBride, but I definitely like Tyler Kolek. I'm a big Pacome Daddier.
Okay. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
So there's a lot of different directions we could take it right now, but I'm definitely.
Are you at all anxious? Because over the last 24 hours, y'all of course made a trade for Mikal Bridges. You re-signed OG Anunoby. Y'all are in a very good spot. You saw the poll that was just showed by the team back at Bristol. Are y'all the favorite? It was way closer than I thought. Close to a 50-50 split. Hold on, let's see what the pick is. The New York Knicks select.
Dun, dun, dun.
Ryan Dunn, dun, 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 dun.
We ain't got the, it ain't fully in yet. We got to wait a little bit.
Don't tell me to pick in, it ain't
They
in.
got him.
Oh, there it is.
They got him, They got him.
That's why they be calling me the expert up here, man.
Did he not get an invite to the green room? Was he had general admission tickets?
He
For the love of the game, man.
He from overseas. That's how Giannis was. When Giannis got picked in, and the Nationals brought out the
I think
green flag.
they said only 14 people get invited to the green room.
It's a lot of guys
Was it
that
14?
A lot of Keyshawn George was in the crowd. A lot of guys just go in the crowd, and you can still walk that stage. That's a lot of people dreaming to walk across that stage.
100%.
My phone, I got to make my tweet.
Okay, get your tweet to give it back because y'all got another pick, and I don't want you seeing that one either.
So you asked me, am I anxious about what?
Just in general, usually there's anxiety when your team is adding a new player. If they're gonna make the right pick, are they not gonna make the right pick? And the reason I asked that for you specifically, because over the last 24 hours, y'all have done some big things that maybe this draft doesn't even matter to the Knicks in the grand scheme of things.
In all honesty, people kept asking me because they know I'm a big Knicks fan. Obviously, we're having 2 picks back to back. I was kind of under the impression that we weren't gonna draft anybody.
I could see that.
These first-round picks, essentially, Wendy has talked about it. Obviously, they talked about it a little bit more with earlier picks like Rob Dillingham, but these guys are guaranteed contracts, and it's so much movement with these numbers and contracts and $40 million for OG. You bring in him, you're trying to keep him, that I was just like, man, maybe they're going to try to save as much money as possible and trade out and just get them back later. In future first-round returns.
I think Brian Windhorst just said y'all saved $200,000 by trading back.
That's how significant.
Got to work on the margins.
penny
man.
counts.
And somehow they negotiated the OG contract where they didn't give him the full offer, but they gave him a 10% trade kicker and a player option at the end, which allowed them to give him a little less.
We willing and dealing.
It feels weird, man. It feels like most of our life the Knicks have been well ran, and Leon Rose came in and changed all of that.
Changing everything.
Changed all of that. So it's kind of cool. What are you getting from man whose name I'm not going to butcher?
Pacome Daddier?
Sure.
You're getting some size, you're getting some shooting, some versatility, a little bit of playmaking. You're getting somebody that I think can learn and that doesn't have to come in and try to be a factor from day one, which I'm big on. But I just love some of the shot making he has at his size at 6'8". I love the youthfulness. I think teams like the Knicks who are competing, when you have these later picks, this is what the pick is for. It is nice to sometimes be able to get a Hami Hawkes who can contribute right away, but that's not always the most realistic scenario. So being able to get a guy like this and other guys that can develop, we saw the Bucks. I talked about it a lot where like the Bucks pick to me was a big deal because they swung in a draft where I thought they maybe have tried to take somebody like Kevin McCullough or Ryan Dunn or somebody that was just a little bit more quote unquote ready to play right now. They went for AJ Johnson, a young kid,
surprising to me,
who is a swing. You know what I'm saying? And I think the Knicks are doing kind of the same thing, where it's like we have a stacked roster that's ready to play. Let's not try to complicate it and bring somebody in here that's going to compete for a spot right away. And let's just mold them in the background around winning players and with experience. And so I think the sky's the limit for this young man, and I'm excited that he's on our team. I've been talking about him nonstop. So, man, I just did not think we was going to walk out with him in day one, maybe day two. So,
yeah, I mean, you said it, though. The Knicks already got such a good roster that you could kind of take a chance on somebody that you don't need right away. Plus, Tibbs is going to play his starters at least 40 minutes. So he's going to have a lot of time to learn and back up. So,
Yeah, I mean, this is the most exciting I think the Knicks community has probably have been. Like, they got a lot going on. They saw that they have a good playoff riser in Jalen Brunson. They saw him play at the biggest stage, and then he got hurt. Unfortunately, he fractured his hand. But they were so damn good in the playoffs that they literally had all the best playoffs.
We remember you picking against us, and probably every round. So
I had my hater hat on.
Yeah, for sure. So we want you to keep your hater hat on.
I will.
Okay, thank you.
Now it's Dante DiVincenzo who averaged 18 points per game last season's the sixth man. Like, that's insanity.
I mean, in total,
like top 3 in 3-point shooting.
Is he the sixth man? Josh Hart probably is the sixth man.
I'm just me coming off the bench.
Oh, okay.
Just coming off the bench.
And we got Julius Randle.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So, our bench is pretty deep now. Those two guys were starters.
Wait.
Julius Randle starting at the 4.
Go back.
Josh Hart and DiVincenzo were starters last year because of injury. Now they go to the bench.
That's what I was saying.
Oh, okay.
The guy that averaged 18 last year is now on the bench.
And we have, can y'all, I hate jumping out like this, okay? And I know we have a bunch of people watching. Name me a defensive wing duo that is historic all time.
All time?
You got like Michael Jordan, Scottie, and what else?
I think at a time, Kawhi and Paul George was up there. Paul George is a little bit.
Why you shake your head like that?
Are we putting that to OG and Mikal Bridges?
No, because they haven't played a game yet. But I'm just saying, like, when you think of just tandems at that defensive level, just based off what we perceive, we haven't seen them
Kawhi
together.
and Danny Green was very good with the San Antonio Spurs and at their peaks.
I would argue the defending champion wings play up there as well.
Oh, wait, who?
The Jays.
The Jays, yeah.
He did NBA work?
I forgot.
They won a championship 30.
Oh, the Knicks traded the pick. The pick is traded to the Thunder.
This reminds me of the years ago, we did a draft stream, and we got Jalen Duren, who I loved in that draft.
Oh, yeah.
And we traded him where?
Oh,
It was something with
it was a couple different
it was something with the
routes.
Thunder, and then it went to the Pistons, and now we're trading Daddy A to the Thunder.
You got your guy. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't get Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Daddy A and somebody else.
So we're keeping Daddy. I thought that was saying that he was the pick.
No. The pick that is on the clock right now that
26?
y'all acquired with the last trade is getting traded to OKC for someone else.
Thank you. I thought we was getting rid of my boy.
Daddy A's cool. He feels like a Sam Presti type of player.
He does.
For real. another one of those
Ousmane Dieng type of guy. Yeah.
Exactly.
But now this is going to OKC, and now we change a little bit because they drafted earlier and took Nikola Topic, who was going to be stashed for at least a year or so
love
as he
what they
recovers
do.
from an ACL injury. And now they're going to get someone else.
Kyle Filipowski. They need some size. Everybody that has size has kind of been taken thus far. You Yves Missy, Khalil Ware, Zach Edey, Deron Holmes has been taken. So I don't know what other direction.
Dylan Jones. Oh, 26th overall.
What
OKC.
college?
I don't know. So-
Damian Lillard.
Weber.
There you
Oh,
go.
no, that's not right.
Weber State.
You're right. That wasn't right. But I was so happy he didn't say Weber. He used to say Weber. So
Well, yeah, you got to make sure you have the state because that's not the same
I like
place.
Dylan Jones, man. He's a do-it-all guy. Flirted with triple doubles on a nightly basis at Weber State. So I think he can kind of do the same thing. You know, shout out to him. The Thunder they draft so well to me. I love the fact that they got Nikola Topic at 12. I put on Twitter Josh Giddey's replacement and. Oh, he's so much better. He has a lot more upside. I'm like, yeah, bro.
People
I
are
know
going to be
Josh Giddey
mad.
had a lot of upside when he was drafted. I
Made
don't
me
know.
so
He
mad.
definitely did.
But yeah,
Now, I
okay,
do
they get a
prefer
guy.
Nikola Topic though, but they're
Topic
similar.
Topic is crazy when you talk about getting to the basket. He just literally just puts his head down and just forces his way to the rim.
Sound like you.
Being able to draft and stash at this point
It's
is
just phenomenal.
a luxury that
Phenomenal.
only OKC has because they could just be like, yeah, we had a top 15 pick that won't play this year. We'll still be good enough to maybe be the one.
Well,
seed
there's
this
other
year.
teams trying to find their player in the draft.
Yes,
Topic was the top 3 talks. He was top 3 talks, potentially number 2 to the Wizards at one point prior to that injury. So you get that at 12 and you're stashing him. And we'll get back to him later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Let's go compete for a championship. We'll
Yeah.
get back to him later.
OKC is just doing a thing, man.
I mean, Sam Presti just has a history. When you draft 3 back-to-back MVPs,
And then between them, the not MVP hits were Jeff Green, Serge Ibaka, Steven
Yeah.
Adams. So yeah, Sam Presti knows what he's doing when we talk about drafting. Drafted Eric Maynor,
yeah, shout out to VCU's very own, man.
VCU's finest.
Yeah.
VCU's finest. Drafted Daquan Cook.
Shout out to Ohio State's very finest.
There you go. You know
We could do it all day with the colleges,
we could,
baby.
We could, but we not.
We will send it back to Bristol
5
for these
seconds.
last couple picks, and we'll be back.
All right, thanks so much, guys. And we had some movement. We asked for action, and we got some action. The Knicks, they get the number 26 pick via the Wizards, and then the Knicks trade that number 26 pick to OKC. Wendy, in terms of just an NBA perspective of what's happening here, unpack that for us.
So the Knicks look like what they've done here is they've sort of punted on the first round with these 2 picks. I suspect, I just don't know the French gentleman's name. How you pronounce his name?
Pacome Dadier?
Yep.
Or that?
Dadier.
Dadier.
I suspect he is going to be kept overseas. And they've made 2 different trades with the 24th pick and 25th pick and picked up 6 future second-round picks is what it looks like they're going to be doing here. So what they're doing is restocking some of their asset base. And the reason they would move on these 2 picks and not have either, first off, Tom Thibodeau's not playing these guys. That's number 1. Number 2, by stashing one player and getting rid of the other pick, even if it's just for a bunch of second-rounders, they're going to take, maybe $4 or $5 million off of their books?
So the salary for these 2 slots coming into tonight was $5.5 million. Now you have to replace those with guys at the vet minimum of $2.1 million. So
Right.
it's not all of that is saving, but that would be a difference ultimately of about $1.3 million.
So they did a bunch of moves here. Again, this is their head of strategy, Brock Aller, who is one of the guys who's one of the driving forces of the way the Knicks do all these little arbitrage moves. He's been doing this for years. They're trying to keep money available below the hard cap so that they can try to keep their team together. Once they did that Bridges trade, they triggered a hard cap that is a new rule this year that they have. They can only spend so much, and they're just in the trenches right now, grinding away with little teeny moves while everybody's going to sleep, trying to figure out a way to keep the team together. And that's what they're doing. It's minutia. It's not exciting, but it could potentially lead to them being able to keep a player that they may have otherwise had to let go.
I have to tell you, Wendy, I'm like scrolling on Twitter right now, and I'm looking at some of the tweets, and of course, your meme has come up with the Knicks. There is something going on in New York, and Knicks fans are trying to figure it out.
I will say, the Thunder, coming in here and picking this player, I don't know much about Dylan Jones. I do know that, Topic, the guy that they drafted earlier, this is a high upside player who slid in the draft because of injury. I'm not sure about here, but the Thunder, they had like 33 future picks, like 17 or something of those were second rounders. They cash in 5 of them to get this player. This is the type of move that the Thunder can do a deal like this. They can trade 5 second rounders for the 26th pick. That's because they've got these types of things. They like this player. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know anything about Dylan Jones. I'm going to yield to y'all.
Yeah, Dylan Jones. What do we like about him? What are the pros? What are the cons?
Yeah, well, first off, he's undersized. He's an undersized post player. So you're going to hope that he can learn how to develop his perimeter skills because he measured in at 6'4". But when you look at his game, what did we say earlier, Amina? Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. I mean, the way that he led Weber State, we're looking at this guy as having arguably the second greatest career. I mean, Damian Lillard is first, but the second greatest career in Weber State history when you look at the stats that he put up. So this guy produces, and I think that when you look at what the Thunder saw in him, they saw a guy, and forget the size. We don't care that you're undersized. We don't care that you're 6'4". We care that you produce. We care that you can come on our team and make an impact. And I think he's an older guy. He's a more mature guy. He can play and definitely be a bench player, but I think that he can play on this Thunder team and help them become better. Yeah,
he led the Big Sky in points, rebounds, and assists. Kevin, does that translate as we see the pick come in for Minnesota right now at number 27? Terrence Shannon Jr., we'll get to him in just one second, but just, what do you think about how those numbers are able to translate, especially in a conference like the Big Sky and then translating to the NBA?
Yeah, I had him projected about in this range after you account for the strength of schedule. He's actually kind of on the young side for a 4-year college player. I think he's still barely 22, so not as old as, say, a Dalton Knecht. I think the question mark is going to be, like you said, how that translates in terms of position. But one thing that we have seen, because a lot of it was he's averaging double-figure rebounds over the course of his career at 6'4.5", which is pretty incredible. Impressive. But one thing we've seen with Oklahoma City, they love these guys that play up. Alex Caruso is going to be that kind of guy for them. Lou Dort guards all sorts of positions at 6'3" or 6'4" or whatever he is. They haven't played a traditional center a lot of the times, which Chad Holmgren is, as skinny as he is. He's not undersized in terms of height, but so they have this type, and I think that's where he fits in for them.
And Terrence Shannon Jr. going to Minnesota. King, what's the rundown on him? And I'm, again, assuming that we're at this point in the draft and you're talking about a contending team in the West, probably not going to see some time out there on the floor or much time out there on the floor, but what does he bring to that organization? I might disagree with that one. I think a guy like Terrence Shannon is a guy who's ready to play. Okay. First and foremost, what happened to him, what he had to overcome, shouts out to him. You got to be one strong, mentally strong guy. But an elite level athlete, score. When you take away the last game against UConn where they got dominated, the last 7 games before that, 3 in the tournament, 4 in the Big Ten Conference, he averaged 30 points per game. This man is on go 24/7. He plays with such a high motor. The only thing that I really don't love about his game is he doesn't really change paces. He's one speed, 100 miles an hour, but he can shoot the ball. He can defend. He played it for Chris Beard at Texas Tech. Chris Beard is all about defense. He buys in on that side. He's a two-way player, can really fill it up, can really shoot. He can probably start off as a floor spacer, but he can go get you a bucket. And his athleticism at the rim, one of the best finishers we're going to see in the first round. I'm all in on Terrence Shannon, and I think that he's going to a great spot where he can actually get minutes next year.
Well, now this is a player that I know. I got to see him play live in the NCAA tournament. His athleticism explodes off the court. He was very clearly on a different level than everybody else I happened to watch that day. Minnesota being very aggressive here with going and getting Dillingham and Shannon. In terms of raw talent, Minnesota, for a team that comes in as a conference semifinalist or conference finalist, adding those types of players, those level of talent in the draft, Minnesota made some moves tonight. We'll see if they work out.
All right, the pick is in for Denver and Ryan Dunn going out there to play for the Denver Nuggets. What's the rundown on Dunn for Kevin?
So this is the pick that's going to Phoenix from the trade that we saw, or trade up that we saw earlier, where Denver went up to get Deron Holmes II. And it's interesting. I like the idea. I think a lot of people with Phoenix were thinking a point guard, maybe Tyler Kolek. to me, that kind of player is not going to have a chance to really finish games for you because they're going to have, their 3, stars on the perimeter and then Grayson Allen at the end of games. I like the idea of them adding some athleticism and injecting some defense into the front court. That was a bigger need to me. I liked if they could have gotten Yves Missi. It would have been a really terrific fit. He was off the board before they picked. So Dunn, offensively, very raw, similar to Dylan Jones, where he's going to have to play as a big at 6'6", but defensively, this guy might be the best in the draft.
Kevin said it. I was gonna second that. This might be the best on-ball, off-ball defender that we have seen in the first round. And we've seen some guys who can really lock up, but this guy specializes in that. Offensively, he is almost a liability at 6'6". What position is he going to play at? But I love his versatility on the defensive side, and which is why I think that he will be able to play immediately. His length and his athleticism will be able to translate on the defensive side, and he can really lock up and help a team in that area, especially a team like the Suns, in which you said, Amina, they have a lot of offense, not much defense. You put him in, despite the lack of scoring, you got dudes who can go 3 of the best bucket getters in the NBA, right?
Yeah.
You just plug this guy in the corner, tell him go lock up on the opposite side. I think you're fine. I like this fit for Ryan Dunn. I think this would be a good thing for Phoenix.
So, Pelton, you had Johnny Furphy as number 5 in your statistical projections, and he is still out there, the last pick of the first round.
We still have 2, right?
Oh, 2. There's 2 picks.
Yeah.
But
I take it all back.
Pretty shocking because the buzz in the last few weeks had been that Furphy was moving up on draft boards and maybe might even go as high as the late lottery. So I'm pretty shocked by this one. But Dunn, I think the interesting question is going back to him is, like, are you going to be able to put enough floor spacing around him if you have to play him as a 4, or does he have to play at 6'6" as a 5 in the Phoenix offense to get enough floor spacing even with those bucket getters?
I wanted you guys to see that tweet right there. The meme is like the Celtics waiting for their turn so they can pick Bronny and mess up the Lakers.
It would also,
Brad Stevens would never do that, though, is what I'm saying.
It would mess up our night and our day all day tomorrow. So
Oh, yeah.
Please do not.
Please do not do it.
Thank
Brad
you.
Stevens, please do not mess up the Lakers. I will say, though, that maybe Celtics fans, they'll like it, though.
Yeah.
Because, you get to mess with the Lakers and their whole situation and LeBron and trying to get Bronny out to L.A. It's a whole big thing. I do not think that's going to happen.
Speaking of Bronny, one of his teammates that he played with, Isaiah Collier, is another guy who I'm really high on, who might slide to the second round. And hopefully he can get picked up by either Utah or Boston. But
Woj just said he's going 29th, just so you know.
Oh, okay. I was about to say.
Before I was going to let you cook, but just.
He's like, I was going to let you cook,
it's too late
but-
tonight, buddy. I have too much respect for you.
I appreciate that, Wendy.
Oh, man.
But look, I like this selection because Isaiah Collier is a first-round draft pick. He is a first-round talent. I mean, going into the season, this was a guy who we were talking about as a top 5 draft pick. We were discussing him potentially going 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And then he slid all the way this deep. But I think that Utah is getting a really, really, really good player. Doesn't shoot it great yet, but the pressure that he puts on the rim when he attacks, the leadership that he plays with. I was calling the Elite 24 game about 2 years ago, and it was Justin Edwards, it was Trey Johnson, it was a whole bunch of guys, big-name guys who were seeing, and Isaiah Collier took over the game with his playmaking, with his leadership. He was the one on the floor who cared the most. And in an all-star game, a lot of guys don't really want to go out there and play hard. Isaiah Collier was all about winning. He put his teammates in positions. He was that force, that point guard that a lot of teams look for and had that leadership. And I think that he will bring that to the NBA, and I think that he is going to probably be, if not the biggest steal of the draft, one of the biggest steals of the draft right here, because he also has a lot of people to prove wrong because he slid so far back.
And Kevin, why the slide? Why do you think Collier slid in this draft?
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar. It's interesting. Ron Holland, I guess, didn't end up sliding on draft night going as high as he did. But much like, his apparent slip in the rankings, I think a lot of it was the team not having a very good season last year. It was a disjointed season. He missed some time due to injuries. Bronny was out the start of the year after his cardiac arrest. And then I think the shooting questions loom paramount. 34% from threes, but very limited volume, 67% at the line last year at USC. He's going to have to improve those numbers so that teams will defend him honestly in the pick and roll. But the physical gifts are there, was excelled at getting to the basket, 6+ free throw attempts, or nearly 6 free throw attempts last year at USC. And if he puts everything together, this could be great value. It's interesting because it's kind of similar to what Utah did last year, a little earlier in the round with Keontae George, who is someone else we both liked despite an underwhelming freshman season at Baylor, and lo and behold had a strong rookie season for Utah.
I think Isaiah Collier will be phenomenal. Okay. I mean, I just think he has the intangibles that you can't teach, and he had the injury at USC, which kind of derailed him a little bit, and USC underperformed. They should have been way better than what they were. However, Isaiah Collier is legit. He is legit.
You can't teach size.
You can't teach size. And at 6'4", big frame, I mean, he can make it tough on you. He can really cause a lot of problems for defenses. He gets that shot going and learns how to be a consistent three-point shooter. Isaiah Collier is probably one of the best point guards, if not the best point guard, in this year's draft class.
The Celtics on the clock right now, just about 3.5 minutes until they make their pick. And I struggle to think.
They would love to trade this pick.
Yeah, I struggle to think what exactly they would do here in the first round, just based off of what I've seen last season.
I don't know if there's any value for them right now.
Yeah.
They would really love to trade this pick because they are squeezed financially.
Oh, yeah.
You add $1 million, $2 million to them, it's going to cost them like $6-7 million in actual salary. So they would love to move out of this pick, but I'm not sure there's anybody who's super interested in paying any of them for it. So there are players that have been taken 30th over the years that have been very successful. So we'll see,
including one with a Celtics draft pick because they traded Desmond Bane to the Memphis Grizzlies.
That's correct. Yeah, for second rounders, like 4 second rounders, something like that. So. Yeah, I think the Celtics are still cleaning up the confetti, but they were having draft workouts during the finals. There would be days where they would have guys in, work them out in the afternoon at their facility, and then go down and play in a finals game. So it never stops. The NBA never stops when it comes to draft prep.
Yeah, that is true. The NBA does not stop, just regardless, just all throughout the year.
I appreciate them going down to the very last minute here. Please take every minute.
I mean, it's just draining the clock down. Yeah, I honestly, Kevin, I mean, I do struggle to think about what they would need. Just watching that team last year, knowing that, they had Kristaps Porzingis, they had a Derek White, obviously Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday. I mean, you have such a complete team just based off of what I've seen the year before where they weren't that complete. But now I think about Kristaps Porzingis also not being healthy going into next season. What's a good fit for this Celtics team just on the surface, even knowing that they do have a really complete team going into next season as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see how that Porzingis injury changes how they approach Xavier Tillman Sr.'s free agency because, he did play a little bit of a role for them in the finals and helped them a bit. I think with this pick, you're looking 2 or 3 years down the road when that luxury tax bill, you're in the repeater tax and it gets really big and the second apron restrictions start hitting hard. And if you have to trade a Sam Hauser or a Peyton Pritchard for financial reasons, can you draft someone who steps into one of their roles?
Johnny Furphy.
You said it.
Johnny Furphy.
This is another player about to get picked that I did not think I would be able to contribute much in this part of the draft. I'm not going to lie.
You did tell me that beforehand.
However, this is another player that I am going to know about because this is a Creighton player. This is an Omaha player.
I like this
Omaha.
one.
Look how everything just came full circle. You see that just a few minutes ago?
Baylor Shireman.
I believe this is going to be Baylor Shireman out of Creighton, who's I think almost 24 years old. Very confident player, very much believes in his ability, and he will now be able to forever say he was a first-round pick and he gets to go to the champion Celtics. He's got good size, good shooter. He's gotten in better condition as he's gotten older, and was a big contributor in Creighton going to the Sweet 16 the last couple of years. So thank you again for the Celtics going all the way down to the final second.
The final seconds.
Probably trying like crazy to trade this pick, but okay, we'll take Baylor Shireman out of Creighton.
If they do end up picking Shireman King, how do you think he would fit in with this Celtics team that's really looking to repeat again next season?
Yeah, I think Kevin said it perfectly. When Hauser, when Pritchard, they're no longer on the team, who can you have in order to just step into that role? Oh, Shireman is perfect. I mean, he can do the same thing that Hauser can do. He can space the floor, elite level shooter, average 19 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, can really rebound the basketball. I mean, of course there are concerns on the defensive side, but you want to talk about crafty, you want to talk about a guy who is a high IQ player. Baylor Scheierman is your guy. He can fit into almost any system. Is he going to be the best athlete on the floor? No. But his IQ alone will allow him to play with almost anybody.
But you'd say that about like Sam Hauser, you know?
I mean, yeah.
You do say that about
You said
Sam
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They play the same role.
Yeah.
Same exact role.
Look, this is my life in Omaha, okay? People find out, they don't know who I am. They find out that I cover the NBA, and then they go, oh, is Doug McDermott still in the NBA? This is the Omaha mind,
Wait,
okay?
what?
So now, for the next few years, they'll say, hey, oh, you cover you work in the NBA. Is Baylor Scheierman still in the NBA? This is going to be my life going forward at various establishments in Omaha, Nebraska for the foreseeable future.
Just hanging out on a Monday night and
That's right.
those are the questions that you're going to be getting at the bar.
Cleaning up my dry cleaning, picking up a pizza. Does Dougie still play? That's the way they ask it. I'm like, yes, he's making $14 million this year playing for the Pacers. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Here you go. Take your receipt.
Take your receipt. Go ahead. All right. You see Baylor Scheierman going to Boston. Let's send it back out to Chicago, though, to our guys in the podcast and see what they think about the draft and how it's gone so far.
What a year.
What a year, man.
guys, man. What's been your favorite part of this draft?
For me, I would say the Denver Nuggets getting Daron Holmes. I think that was one of the biggest steals when you're talking about having a good, skilled big coming in to back up Nikola Jokic. I think that was phenomenal. He shot 38% from three. He's a hard hat type of dude. He rebounds good, put the ball on the floor, self-create a little bit. He can do a lot of the things backing up Jokic.
I loved what the Blazers did. I mean, getting Denny, you turn that into getting Donovan Clingan. They had a really, really good night, in my opinion. I love how active Washington was. When you're a team like that in the stage that they are, you just have – why not just get as much young talent as you can, and we'll see what works. We'll see if something hits in the 20s, you know what I'm saying? And we could turn Keyshawn George into something great. If not, we only use the 20th pick. I just feel like more teams should have that mentality. Utah Jazz was active again. I think a lot of those middle-tier teams, they went out and they got guys – that can come in and help them and contribute, like the Pelicans. Got Yves Missy. Our boy Ryan Dunn went to the Suns. A lot of those type of picks make me extremely happy. Jeremy McCain going to the Philadelphia, too.
And this is a guy we probably didn't expect to go this high, but Zach Edey going to Memphis. That was a guy that they needed size. They needed somebody that can be a presence on the inside alongside Jaren or even just shed some of those minutes. But they reached, and that's what this kind of draft was about when there wasn't just star-studded everywhere.
Yeah, I really like the Minnesota Timberwolves draft was interesting.
Yeah,
Came in with no expectations.
Yes.
Walk out with Rob Dillingham and walked out with Terrence Shannon from Illinois. I think that's a pretty good draft for where they are.
The Lakers getting Dalton Connect is a steal. That's
my favorite
that's a very
picks of the
good
draft.
steal, man.
It really is.
Yeah, I know that's your favorite. pick of
Jalen
the draft.
Tyson
He
with
was
the
there.
Cavs.
Jalen
It's a lot
Tyson.
of good picks in this draft. I will say this again, though. I'm disappointed in the lack of movement.
What
We do this
the Knicks
every
got
year.
5 seconds. That's all
How
the
did
movement.
Knicks get 5 seconds and y'all got 0
We're not
for
talking
Alex
about that. We're not
Caruso?
talking about that. I'm talking about that.
No, we
I've
are.
already put
I'm
that
asking you a
past me.
question.
Well,
Not
I'm
just
actually
one.
actively listening to the press conference of our general manager as we
Okay.
speak, and he said, "I thought it was a fair trade." So, so that's all you needed.
That sounds like he didn't negotiate it that much. Sounds like he went in there and was just like, you know what? This is a fine
This is
offer.
what we
We'll
want.
take it.
This is what we want. Well,
That ain't what he ain't say. This is what we want. Sam Presti, this is what you get.
Hey, we want to say we appreciate everybody that tuned in with us in this draft coverage. We'll send it back over to Bristol.
See y'all.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging with us. That does it for us here in studio. Thank you for watching the Hoop Collective NBA Draft Show presented by State Farm. For Brian Windhorst, King McClure, Kevin Pelton, I'm Amina Smith. We'll see you back here next time.